My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Entity stalking by plane. Doing so at get the time right now. So I have it's currently 7:14 a.m. Engaging in criminal summoning moments before that at approximately 7:11 a.m. This is at the Ontario Town Square where the entity is engaged in criminal monitoring. The maintenance of light activity, amplified audible activity, and presence where the government is stalking as it's monitoring me, and doing so, concentrating this activity around me at 224 North Euclid Avenue, where you saw the fake sun yesterday, first of all, today's October 3rd, so yesterday, October 2nd, where I am juxtaposing that with what happened on October 1st, okay? And this is where, in an unnatural environment, where you see it is tailored to the targeted individual who is being surveilled by a demon-possessed entity. This is a corrupt government that is filled with what are demons that are engaged in the abuse of the positions that they hold. A demon-possessed population who are engaging in demonic behavior designed to monitor, as I'm letting you know, the significance of what they're doing as they manifest light, as they manifest noise, as they are present in doing so. They are stalking under the laws. You're going to prosecute surveillance that is conducted in an inhumane way. These are demons in doing so, and it's also the government that's doing it in concert with the population, okay? This is 7:15 a.m. The entity concentrating plane activity over my head at the Ontario Town Square. And this is the prosecution of the government that's doing so. Paying attention to the frequency of the planes. This is the obvious engagement in the pattern of conduct. The airport, first of all, doesn't have any planes taking off that are going to make any sort of disruption of the Ontario Town Square. Second of all, the Ontario International Airport is not maintaining flights second by second. Planes are not taking off from those terminals in a line like that, just taking off. If you've ever been on a plane as well, this is a common sense based scrutiny. The entity is literally going to be subject to a prosecution, including the targeting and the tactics underway by the airport that is a terrorist, and it is therefore a threat. And this is basis of what is exposing criminal expenditure of funds as well, the removal of the corrupt officials, and the removal of that airport. The entity is engaged in this frequency. I've only been speaking for 2.5 minutes, and the entity is maintaining ongoing flights that are not departing from the airport miles away to be hovering over me at the Ontario Town Square, number one. And number two, it's not published on the Ontario International website what the entity is doing around me in the city of Ontario. And number three, the entity's frequency with which the planes are hovering over me at miles away from the airport at that elevation, at that volume level. This is an entity that's clearly targeting, but also the entity's clearly targeting in a way that is also uncharacteristic of how flights are conducted, where you have a cushion of time with regard to planes that are safely landing, planes that are safely taking off, having adequate time and space to do so. They don't have planes taking off second by second from the two terminals at the Ontario International Airport, maintaining this heavy traffic while they're paced. That's the P.O.C. All right, Ontario Fire Department. That's Michael GERKEN. That's engaged in criminal conduct. This is the Nephilim. By the way, it's the demon, and they're engaged in stalking me. The entity is very obsessive with regard to their monitoring. So while I'm reading scripture, and while I am recalling demonic behaviors that the entity has committed, particularly regarding the kidnapping that was committed on September 28, 2025. You are a demon that is already stalking in the path to be at the corner where I'm at, and with simultaneity to what it is that I am documenting or what it is that I'm thinking about, to engage in the elements of monitoring. Those are demons, and that is heavy-duty stalking. Okay, that's not a fire department. They're engaged in surveillance, and that needs to be known publicly that the Nephilim make up the fire department, demons. And they are enemies of the United States. Okay, these are domestic terrorists, and they're engaged in un-American and criminal activity, who think that fire departments and the suits that they wear and the labels that go before their name and the acronyms that go after their name are going to be an adequate disguise. These are enemies of this country, okay? And that's why they're engaging in surveillance under the guise of being a fire department. And that's the threat that Michael GERKEN and all the demons that are using and abusing fire trucks to engage in absurdly psychopathic and criminal and malicious conduct. That's what they pose. And that's the same analysis with regard to demons using planes, demons using police departments like the Ontario Police. And it's a shame to even apply those labels to what are domestic terrorist enemies of the United States. Law enforcement, fire departments, the ability for us to travel and use planes and whatnot. And the entity has weaponized this to engage in surveillance of American citizens in concert with the civilian population, who are not human beings, they're demons. This is all manner of what is an attack on this country. You need to understand that. An attack on American citizens and an attack on our identity. All right, I just want to be clear. It's currently Friday, October 3rd, 2025. The entity is engaged in the same P.O.C. These are a bunch of demons who are focused on me. These are the demons that engaged in stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library, covering up the fake sun to then go and be right in front of me and while I'm sitting on the computer minding my business. Okay, I'm always minding my business, and it is also my business to prosecute and expose the Nephilim so that you are not caught off guard, so that you can avoid potentially being caught up, being placed in a circumstance of danger or a threat, or anyone close to you that you care about, and where you were ignorant about what is going on amongst the demon-possessed who surround us and the demonic environment that surround us, so that you're not ignorant about what you're subject to. Okay? But these are the demons that went out of their way to cover up the fake sun to then walk into the OVITT Family Community Library. Like,
like the federal investigation, like the federal government that's watching them. Like the world, you are watching them. Like you forgot about what I just documented the day before. Okay, September 22nd, days ago. And this is, again, they're mentally ill. That is an advantage for a prosecutor like myself. But I don't even need an advantage. I don't need it. This is an inevitable demise, but this is how mentally sick they are. This is how forgetful the demon-possessed are. You know why? Because they're more obsessed with my vagina. They're more obsessed with what I'm doing and what I'm thinking about. They're more obsessed with where I'm going and what I'm doing and the way in which I'm doing it. Their obsession has led to their inevitable demise because I'm very focused. And while they're focusing on me, I am leading them into what is a cage so that everyone can see the barbarian that is the demon-possessed that is engaged in criminal monitoring. It's going by the name currently as the City of Ontario, and every level of corruption that's engaging in that pattern of conduct, and it is out of hell. It's demonic. Okay, the entities maintaining light activity around me, maintaining relevant positioning, you're stalking. The mule car smokehouse, maintaining light activity, and then I've shown you an iteration that a truck, for example, with flashing light, and then all the windows maintaining that flashing light, reflecting in it when the vehicle itself is not even anywhere near it. That's the method of stalking with light. These are demons, and their mental illness is very important for you to know as well. Not only are these demons, you need to know that they're unstable. You should not feel comfortable around them. This is nothing that you need to make some sort of announcement on a megaphone about. It's something for you to be informed about. And it's something for you to act accordingly. Protect your household, protect your children, protect those around you. Because their mental instability is proven to you even as I convict them, as I prosecute them, as I document them. The light activity, the amplified audible activity, to monitor someone you don't even know. You're invested in the demise of another. This is, again, the works of Satan. And it's relevant to the demented mind, using a whole fire truck. The resources of an entire police department focused on me. That's sick, okay? And it is speaking to the entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct. This is surveillance at the Ontario Town Square. And remember, the entity engaging in surveillance engaged in kidnapping on September 28th. And the entity that's engaging in kidnapping and surveilling me is engaged in what is surveillance inside of the OVITT Family Community Library that also committed a kidnapping. The entity is always pointing to its own demise. It was P.O.C. when I was subject to kidnapping by the same City of Ontario at that OVITT Family Community Library that went to the extent to cover up what is already established as a fake sun before the whole world. Sunrise until sunset. Covering it up is not changing that. Covering it up is showing how desperate you are to just be in my presence as though someone's going, oh, okay, well, this isn't P.O.C. This is different. Okay, yeah, this is different. Okay, we found an exception here. This is an anomaly. This is actually about the person that they're talking to in front of the targeted individual inside of that library. Okay, it's not a facilitating venue if it's a library. If it's a library, it's not a facilitating venue. It's mutually exclusive. But they're standing an engineer light inside of that venue. They're doing so under a fake sun that's already established on the record. Covering it up is also a work of the demonic. In the same way that you can keep a fake sun over that entrance all day long, you can cover it up. They're demons, and they're very unintelligent. Very unintelligent. Consumed with what is a delusion. A delusion. Because that's a spirit. With that ego, that's a spirit. That's telling itself that it's getting some sort of retaliation because of my... No, you're not. You're being prosecuted. You're being prosecuted. And for you to be so psychopathic, for you to be so obsessed, for you to be such a stalker, yes, you are going to be humiliated. That's just going to come with the territory. Because people that are demon-possessed never wanted to be exposed as such. People who are demon-possessed never wanted it to be known that they're obsessed with my vagina, that they're stalking me in places like bathrooms, that they are following and hanging on my every syllable. And they're demons that are both enamored and also enraged by my existence. They are both stalking me, obsessed with me, and they also are doing so in furtherance of murdering me. That's a psychopath. It's not love. And it's also nothing that the government has any legitimate interest or any business engaging in whatsoever. And that's what the City of Ontario is engaging in. And that is beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, it's so far beyond a reasonable doubt, it's to a scientific degree. And that's relevant to the entity engaging in criminal summoning. The fire department, the police department, the airport, the gang stalker that is American Medical Response, the population itself, every angle with regard to the gang stalking businesses that fill the city of Ontario. It's the prosecution of the state of California, just so that you know. But I have far beyond the prosecution of the demons, the Nephilim that make up the city of Ontario. Far beyond that. The entities engaging in the P.O.C., that's the entity that's going to be, again, removed from the ability to threaten and target and kidnap other innocent American citizens. And you are innocent when that doesn't mean that you are never before have committed a crime. You are innocent insofar as the government does not have any legitimate interest, and the government has no constitutional authority to keep you under surveillance and then claim that they have authority under the law as a police department. No, they don't. Those are delusional psychopaths that are going to be removed from the threat that they pose to the public. The entity that's engaged in what is wanting to conduct itself 1 minute as a fire department and then another, at the same time, actually, because it's not different, simultaneously wants to be demons who are monitoring me, including while they want to play dress up as a fire department. That's delusional, and that's very demented, and that's a threat to the public. That same targeted individual, were there an emergency and they are, again, in need of what is rescue by an actual fire department that are not full of demons, that are seeking to take out the targeted individual and their home or their place of business or something being on fire, and they need actual heroes, not demons that are waiting for a circumstance to commit murder, and then claim that they couldn't rescue the targeted individual from that, when it was the pattern of conduct. They were targeted the whole time. This is a threat, okay? And that's just off the top of my brain, okay? This is the threat that the demon-possessed, the militias that are going around the city monitoring me, sounding sirens. They're psychopaths. As they engage in, those aren't sirens. Understand, that's not indicating an emergency. Understand, it's audible activity. It's mental illness being exhibited to you. Audible activity, light activity while they're stalking. They're stalking. That's why you can hear it. They're stalking me. It's the P.O.C. All right, it is currently 7:27 a.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, the entity is stalking as one. That is the people of the state maintaining criminal presence in the path and activity creation. That is maintenance of noise, the maintenance of presence, which is recognized as criminal, where the entity is maliciously engaging in a system such as gang stalking, which is occurring under the fake sun, which is occurring in a whole environment that is engineered, that is supernatural, that is abnormal, that is unnatural, pursuant to what are the ways in which you are keeping maintaining surveillance. And when you're gang stalking that is targeting keeping a specific person under surveillance for the criminal purpose of committing murder of that person, kidnapping that person, which is committed as the government. It's not just that police department. It's not just the entity that's calling the police and making up information regarding why they are calling the police. It's not just that jail that's engaged in an unlawful confinement pursuant to gang stalking, that also that sheriff that's housing the American citizen illegally is engaged in. It's an entire criminal act. It's a cooperative criminal act. It's a federal offense with regard to the entity that is engaging in gang stalking on the streets every day, everywhere, at all times, like I'm documenting. At 9:49 a.m., the entity is sounding plane activity, and again, doing so with the intent that I document, with the intent that I'm affected, if you will. I'm listening to music on my communication device, and the entity that is surrounding me, these are demons sitting around staring at the communication devices. These are the living dead. They're all dead. These are demons. And they're engaged in ongoing light activity. Leonida, the city of Ontario, surrounding the perimeter on Lemon Avenue with light activity. This is the entity that's doing so. The same thing is accomplished where the entity is keeping a fake sun, and these demons are engaged in merely presence and noise creation. Covering up the fake sun and maintaining methods of light activity. It's the same P.O.C. They are stalking in the path with light while the entity is maintaining aerial surveillance, turning off the music, controlling the operation of my device, as then a demon is engaged in terrorizing me and stalking by hovering over the Ontario Town Square while Leonida Builders LLC and the City of Ontario is engaged, including Brightview, that are also engaged in what are hiring those who are immigrants in this country, engaging in terrorizing American citizens. The government, the City of Ontario, is engaged in hiring immigrants that are engaged in terrorism. Brightview is engaged in hiring immigrants that are engaged in terrorism. The city of Ontario is a terrorist, and Brightview is a terrorist because that business itself is engaging in domestic terrorism, and they're also engaged in the employ of terrorists who are engaging in that pattern of conduct. And it includes the one reported on I.I.S today. You can see that on my website with regard to blowing the whistle, if you will. The civil and criminal prosecution is the prosecution of the entity, and is doing so with, again, corrupt businesses like Wells Fargo, a corrupt establishment, where license 6BDW560 is gang stalking me by going into to Wells Fargo and sharing in what is gang stalking under the guise of a transaction with that facilitating venue. They're doing so while the entity is flying over by planes over the Ontario Town Square. License 8XVX263 is monitoring in concert with the entity that's maintaining plane activity over the Ontario Town Square, where, like you saw yesterday, and which is not removed from the evidence, which is relevant to malice of a demon-possessed and corrupt government that likes to falsely depict the character of an American citizen that is not documenting, that does not have any evidence, and now the entity that is being bullied with evidence of its mental illness and its criminal conduct is then engaging in what is psychopathic as well, covering up a fake son in the first place while you're still stalking, showing what is the purpose of that entire environment in the first place while you're still engaging in that same pattern of conduct in a different way. It's another iteration to surround the perimeter with light activity. These demons on tractor trailers, these demons with utility vehicles, these demons with the large pickup trucks. Light activity. These demons in traffic, guess what that is? Turn signals, hazard lights, brake lights, light activity, okay? And engineered light is always present. I've shown the pattern of conduct when the entity is covering up the fake sun. Guess what color the engineered light is? It's just a gray as opposed to what is a bright yellow when the fake sun is shining, hovering over me, proving that Leonida in the city of Ontario and Brightview and Wells Fargo and Demon license KNYKID2 is gang stalking, and she is gang stalking systematically at Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. Okay, the entity is controlling my device, turning off my music. This is an entity that's engaging in an admitted unlawful search. That is harassment, and it's also terrorism. That's terrorizing while the entity is stalking you in a plane and then controlling your devices as they do so that they can command your attention, in other words. While the entity is, again, these demons with this God complex, and they're going to be prosecuted, and these wannabe fake gods are going to be committed and convicted. Okay, that's a demon flying a commercial plane, and the entity is going to produce, like you would in any court in discovery, they're going to produce the business records regarding who was accessing the planes, who was flying, because my documentation is that which is supplemental with regard to the federal government, and the business of the Ontario International Airport is going to fork it over. And these demons are going to prison. They're going to federal prison for that which, again, their mental illness, that is the demons that are using their vessels. But it's not a defense under federal law. They're acting of their own volition, and they're also doing so while they know it's being documented. And because of your mental illness, that's also going to be at the forefront of your prosecution. But you do not have a defense. But these are very much mentally deranged, mentally ill people. And their behavioral health concern is that which is a national security threat. It's literally their criminal conduct. And the entity is engaged in what is stalking me in planes and is doing so simultaneously controlling my communication device, turning off my music that I'm listening to on my phone, where you are engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, Section 22618A, subsections 1 and 2 in doing so. And so is everyone in relevant position. They are not actually focused on drilling in the street and engaging in landscaping, which, again, you don't have to prove that in court. You're going to prove what is criminal presence in the path and the elements of monitoring in a specific environment where the entity is proven to be engaged in what is targeting. That targeting conduct is underway by your presence, by your, in any guise of your presence. When you're present, just standing there with a banner stating, "I am stalking Erica Lorraine Spencer," or whether you're standing there creating light activity on your vehicle with a company name and a license plate, engaging in any activity in my path, engaging in the same exact elements of monitoring. You are going to be prosecuted, and you're going to be prosecuted in the shoes of the government that is targeting with the people of the state. The demons that are the Nephilim, the demon-possessed population. License 9MHN922, 9FMD502, 17352R2. They're sharing and gang stalking with the city of Ontario in furtherance of murder and psychological torture. 8YJA466, 6ZQX565, license 9TRR462. Literally, the cameras of the ATM at Wells Fargo is evidence against the entity. The surveillance cameras inside of Wells Fargo, they're gang stalking as employees. They're gang stalking as patrons. There's surveillance cameras and literally the business records of every gang stalking company. The business records and the ongoing production by the Ontario International Airport, the gang stalking conduct of the Ontario Police Department. They're using their police vehicles, they're using their heliport. All of this is going to be produced. They are going to produce the information, and they're going to federal prison. Like I said, it's going to happen. It is currently 9:59 a.m. This is P.O.C, the entity stalking at the Ontario Town Square, where, like I stated yesterday, I'm capturing the fake sun. Remember, I'm in Fontana. I'm on Route 61, going to Fontana. So you already know that Leonida Builders and Corp LLC, is gang stalking at the Ontario Town Square. And it doesn't change because you cover up the fake sun as a bunch of demons, keeping the evidence of me proving that you're demons under surveillance and covering it up. It shows that you're psychopaths, like your criminal conduct does as well. Demons that can't escape the P.O.C. All right? And isn't that justice? Commensurate with the threat posed to American citizens that don't have the ability to prove what they're being targeted by, when they can't escape the demon's pattern of conduct, when they're chased down like they're animals and their life is snuffed out. In the same way, the entity cannot escape the P.O.C, the prosecution for their P.O.C. They can't escape it. And covering up the fake sun, it does not help. It's more evidence of surveillance of evidence against you. Because it will never be the fact that the fake sun is covered up, so therefore there's no criminal activity going on like it is when the fake sun is shining. That is, again, the asininity of the demons that are under a fake sun in the first place. There's no escaping the P.O.C. And there is no getting out of that ongoing prosecution. It is currently, by the way, as you can hear, it's 10 o'clock in the morning at the Ontario Town Square. The entity is engaged in what is maintaining light activity along Lemon Avenue and along Euclid Avenue. This is analogous to what they're doing while I am subject to surrounding by demons, stalking with activity, Leonida Builders and Chevron that has a large delivery from a third-party vendor. That third party is a gang stalking company, and that's a demon operating a third-party vehicle. And you're maintaining light activity at Chevron, maintaining light activity essentially at ARCO, the parking lot of the downtown luxury apartments. This is what Leonida was doing on October 1st, 2025 in the morning, where, by the way, the fake sun is rising right there at what is East Street in Euclid. The same location where the fake sun is, when I'm at the Ontario Town Square, all I'm doing is crossing that parking lot to be at the Ontario Town Square. And this is where I'm documenting the fake sun on video at 8:21 in the morning, at 9:16 in the morning, at 10 a.m., 9:59 a.m. That fake sun doesn't go anywhere. Leonida Builders, LLC is a gang stalking company. It's a terrorist. And they hire terrorists. And that is relevant for I.I.S, the Department of Homeland Security, to raid businesses like that, to prosecute and to deport terrorists, and also to remove companies because you don't have a constitutional right to engage in terrorism through your corrupt business practices. That doesn't exist under the Constitution. So I just want to be clear, you don't even have a right to maintain your business. It's going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted, and you can also prepare, and it doesn't matter how big you think that you are or how many billions of dollars you think you have, Amazon Prime, McDonald's, the entity that's engaged in what is making billions of money, exercising a lot of influence, and the entity's engaged in criminal surveillance. You don't maintain a constitutional right to engage in terrorism. And in the United States, the capitalistic obsession with making money is what is inherent to terrorism. And it is terrorism. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, because I'm not stating anything that's new. All I'm doing is exposing criminal conduct. I'm going to prosecute it. And you also need to know that you don't have a constitutional right to engage in terrorism in the United States through your business. It's a criminal act, essentially. You've made your criminal conduct a business making money. You don't have a constitutional right to engage in that. And you don't have any sort of reasonable expectation to keep or maintain that business. And I'm going to digress there. It is currently 10:03 a.m. This is P.O.C. License plate 54392V1. That's Brightview. Or at least Brightview is accessing it. And that's activity creation. City of Ontario's gang stalking at Metro 102. Like I've already captioned, those demons with those utility vehicles with the light activity. Yeah, that's Brightview Landscape Services. That's the license plate that I just read. Again, that's 54392V1. The entire City of Ontario is gang stalking, but I'm specifically at the 280 North Lemon Apartments, where they are engaged in what is light activity and audible activity that you hear. This is in relevant position while the entity is targeting with planes. You're not engaged in any legitimate business. You're engaged in facilitation. You're gang stalking. 90120A1, 8NJL509, 8ZGY321, 5NOZ723. Leonida Builders LLC, license 56266V2. Third party license 5PLB570. And again, Leonida Builders Incorporated, Leonida Builders Incorporated. I think I was stating LLC before. I'm documenting multiple businesses. Leonida Builders Incorporated. They are licensed and insured. License number 896772. I'm looking at A, B, and C8. I'm sure that's relevant to their licensure that they are going to lose. It's a gang stalking company. They're engaged in terrorism, and they maintain no constitutional right to engage in domestic terrorism in the United States, to employ terrorists, to engage in the pattern of conduct targeting American citizens in furtherance of murder, kidnapping, and psychological torture, while also making money and calling this terrorist Leonida Builders Incorporated. It's license 56266V2. And I've been documenting them targeting me for several days, by the way. LEOBLD2. That's Leonida Builders Incorporated again. That's a pickup truck. They are right here at the very heavily documented where the fake sun rises and sets. The 280 North Lemon Apartments, the Ontario Town Square, the downtown luxury apartments. They're engaging in the iteration of stalking with light in the path and massive facilitation. Massive facilitation. License plate 72478Y3. That's criminal activity, light activity, and stalking by that business and by the demons that are engaging in it under the guise of a business. And this is state action. They're not a third party. They're a third party, not an independent private company. This is state action. This is malice. In other words, this is what demons are engaging in. This is what McCarthy is doing while they're building the parking structure that is now the downtown luxury apartments and the parking garage. This is what Utiliquest is doing in the middle of the street. This is what Griffith Construction is doing, stalking with light in the path under the fake sun as I arrive at the B&G Plaza, coming from the Ontario Police Department, where the entity has the fake sun at no time is it going to be over the entrance like it was yesterday. Nobody forgot about that, so you know exactly what is the significance of Leonida at the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library, because it was over the entrance yesterday. It's the fake sun. This is the method of stalking with light activity, amplified audible activity. What is typically escorting me to the entrance? The Ontario Police Department by helicopter. That's amplified audible activity, and you are stalking me while you're doing so. Those are demons, very unintelligent ones as well. P.O.C. All right, it is currently 10:08 a.m. Leonida is also a sex offender, keeping my vagina under surveillance as a business. That's a sex offender, and also that's a domestic terrorist. P.O.C. And it's ongoing terrorism inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. The demons that thought it was so funny and entertaining. I wonder if they keep that same sense of humor when they're in handcuffs, when they're being raided, and when they're sitting in federal cells for kidnapping. It is currently 10:08 a.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, the Ontario TAD office, this is San Bernardino County, already on the record, established as engaged in criminal surveillance, demons that are monitoring, and this is literally the use of a government building, that's the state, that's engaged in this maintenance of the specific environment. Fake sun already captured on the record, morning, afternoon, okay, moving over me when crossing path with this venue, and that's audible activity. Everything is taken on the character of what is demonic because it's serving to monitor me in concert with who are the people of the state who are in the building, around the building, which is a government building, the San Bernardino County, engaged in monitoring, which is surveillance. I want to document, so it is currently, by the way, 10:48 a.m., and my documented presence is proof of monitoring me. So the POC is already established. Everywhere that I'm going, I am being monitored, and this is also proven. I've specifically documented this address, 1627 East Holt. So the entities engaging in the POC, which is in concert with the City of Ontario, and while demons, including what is,
second floor, door D.
These are the demons that are monitoring. The people of the state, number H65, is gang stalking by crossing path.
audible activity of the speaker, and the employees are engaged in the P.O.C. These are state actors. They're employees of San Bernardino County that's engaged in criminal monitoring. But nonetheless, this is literally the entity that's admittedly engaging in the criminal conduct while you're listening to it, the elements of monitoring. But nonetheless, at 10:41 a.m., this is my documented presence. I took a picture of that at 1627 East Holt, where the criminal pattern of conduct remains underway, and the City of Ontario is maintaining plain activity, amplified while a demon that is represented by what is the third party Simba documented gang stalking me at Economy Inn under the fake sun with the City of Ontario is engaging in the same. The City of Ontario, San Bernardino County, and a demon under the guise of, oh, I need to come into the use the bathroom inside of this venue. And as she comes downstairs, Yvette, who is on my communication device, engaged in Title 18 federal stalking via the use of the communication devices. She's monitoring me. And the text messages is criminal activity by Simba. She's doing so under the guise of being an employee of that third-party company, and she's doing so maliciously engaging in the pattern of conduct, and I've documented her under the fake sun at my hotel room, which is a private space, by the way. That where the City of Ontario is gang stalking by planes and helicopters at Economy Inn 231. This is already, all of this is already on the record. Simba is gang stalking me, doing so while this Yvette, who's a demon, she's engaging in demonic activity, and Simba is also engaging in conduct, business under the guise of being in the name of Christ Jesus, which could not be more blasphemous. It's demonic, and it's also corrupt. That has nothing to do with Christ Jesus. In fact, this is, again, like I stated with regard to the Nephilim, with regard to this corruption, with regard to the demonic, literally the names, it's just a name, okay? It doesn't mean anything.
658, second floor,
It does mean something insofar as the type of venue. For example, the TAD office, the Transitional Assistance Department, the human services that are provided by the TAD office, San Bernardino County, oh, those are very legally relevant titles. It's the government that's engaged, it's the county that's engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct, but calling itself a church, giving out free food, stating that you are engaging in service of the name, it's nothing other than, it literally doesn't mean anything. It's like a kindergarten school versus what is a library versus a fast food restaurant and a government office, a county office. They're all facilitating venues. Is one the direct engagement a function of the state directly, or is one claiming to be a private company? That's the difference between what is a third-party facilitating venue and a state facilitating venue. Both engage in the identical P.O.C, and that's what I mean by it doesn't matter. A gang stalking church is engaged in the same pattern of conduct as a gang stalking county office, and they're all demons, okay? So this is Yvette, who's engaged in monitoring. She comes downstairs after claiming she enters in. She comes and picks me up, Simba, as an employee, and comes into the county office because I guess she didn't when she came from home. She's not homeless, and when she came to work, she comes and drops me off and needs to use the restroom. That's fine. What is not fine is that she's gang stalking and doing so, and as she is opening up the door, walking back outside the parking lot, she is crossing path, engaging in activity creation while amplified planes are heard, and that's the malicious pattern of conduct of those that smile in your face, and doing so while ostensibly in the name of what is service, even misusing and abusing the name of Christ, which, by the way, has nothing to do with Christ himself, because demons want to abuse the name of Christ and hide behind the name of Christ. It has nothing to do with Christ, just so that you don't get that confused. It's like a gang stalking police department that's not actually law enforcement. It doesn't make that the fact of and the existence of law enforcement something that is corrupt altogether. No, it just makes those demons unfit, and that's what's going to be handled with regard to the prosecution of the government engaging in criminal surveillance, demonic activity, psychopathic targeting. All right, but I do want to document that it's ongoing monitoring at 10:53 a.m. Demons are pacing in and out, and it includes an employee of what is Simba Center, and the employee who is Yvette, just like Ashley, just like Sal, and I'm documenting the same P.O.C. As she opens the door, she is maliciously targeting me. That's psychological torture that the entity engages in, and it's not only the prosecution of the government, it's a prosecution of that company, Simba, that's engaging in what is criminal facilitation of federal group stalking and monitoring and federal group stalking and monitoring itself, literally being in the path you're stalking me, even as you're doing so on on behalf of the government, okay? You're doing so maliciously as a company, extending services to give me a ride somewhere while you're engaged in the business of aiding those that are transients, homeless, and while you're simultaneously engaging in the pattern of conduct, you are stalking. Okay, and you're doing so on behalf of that government that's keeping me under surveillance. And it's not a private company, it's a third-party company. They are, in other words, an agent of the state engaging in that P.O.C.
E70 with first
10:54
floor,
a.m.
door A.
You've already seen the impossible light activity inside of this TAD office. You've seen the impossible light activity on the roof above these demons' head, on the walls, their shadows, ongoing demonic and psychologically harmful environment where you're subject to that pattern of conduct, which is relevant to the terrorism that the demon-possessed are engaging in, including in a county office, which is directly relevant to the pattern of conduct that's underway by the state of California. It is 10:55 a.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is 11:14 a.m. I'm sorry. 11:14 a.m. 3VOH 446 7XYK 710 9UEM 023 9CVT 437 7CNH 377. These are demons that are pacing under the covered up fake sun. 8ZOF 587 9GTM 212 9S HV415, and the entity hands me my mail, and I walk out the door, and the entity is hovering, a gigantic plane hovering right in front of the town square. That same demonic synchronicity. As I walk out, the plane takes off like the malicious third party that is monitoring and also providing an accommodation today. All right, it is thank you. 11:16 a.m. and they are also monitoring while I'm subject to that terrorism on communication devices as well. That is again, let me see, the third party Simba Center. It is not 11:16 a.m. P.O.C.
Kind of chilly up there.
It's okay. Well, I hope that didn't take too long.
No.
Not right.
Okay, I was expecting that we were going to, I guess, discuss whatever you wanted to discuss in there, but I guess
Yeah,
not.
I didn't want to discuss it in
Oh,
front of,
okay.
like, because there was a lot of people there.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's okay. I think what we discussed over the phone.
6XRF138, is sufficient? That was what you needed to know anyway?
Yeah, I needed to know
This is
that.
P.O.C.
We discussed that. I just got, like I said, they want me to do a treatment plan, which is just goals that we're going to set, and that's all. I don't want to keep you too long. There's a form. It's just questions that I need to ask, but we don't have to do that today because we can make that another day because I don't want to like overwhelm you and stuff like that anyways.
Oh, I'm not easily
Sorry, guys.
overwhelmed.
Oh,
No, you're
that's right.
fine.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for taking me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
They have both my DMV, my ID, and my license, so I don't have to come back anymore.
Oh,
Yay.
good.
Yay, yay, yay. Okay. Alrighty, it is currently 2:30 p.m. and the images reflected, uploaded to the Google Drive, which I'm in the process of doing right now in real time, capturing what is the fake sun sitting over the same entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library. And this is the state of affairs when the entity committed criminal summoning yesterday at approximately 4:56 p.m. The entity covering up the fake sun is an act of the supernatural in the same way that a fake sun sitting over the entrance of the same OVITT Family Community Library in the same state, location, presence that is captured at 10 o'clock in the morning. And even as I capture that before the library opens and I'm showing it over the entrance during the 8 a.m. hour, I'm showing it in alignment to me at the same address during the 7 a.m. hour. This is the same entity that, again, demons that are engaged in criminal conduct that is being documented, and the only response that they have to continuously engage in what is the proof of their obsession with me is to cover up the fake sun. So that's the entity that has no way of engaging in its pattern of conduct exactly as I've shown you, exactly as the P.O.C. has laid out. This is exactly what demons are doing, is exactly what a government is engaging in its criminal surveillance, and it's inhumane because of the monitoring by what are demons who do so in places including
in bathrooms pertaining to what is public information by an entire population. And they are sharing that knowledge in real time as demons. And the proof of that, the prosecution of it, is the ongoing maintenance of that specific environment. That's how you're going to prosecute, not based on intuition, but based on tangible evidence, where that criminal surveillance system is proven to be in effect and underway. The entity has the fake sun, as I'm capturing, over the 215 East C Street OVITT Family Community Library, which is the same library where they committed kidnapping at 10:29 a.m. on June 16, 2022. And the employees are engaging in the pattern of conduct today, and they committed what is a kidnapping upon gang stalking me, targeting me, and then using a library as the malicious guise of that. They're doing so as a demon-possessed population that fills every corner of this library and are all together stalking me with the maintenance of audible noise and engineered light, and you are all stalking in doing so. So I just want to be clear. You are stalking in that environment. You're not present on any constitutionally protected basis. It's the government keeping you under surveillance, and the government's doing it through the people of the state, through every business where the businesses are gang stalking, okay? So that's the significance of what I'm capturing. And the entity is doing so. This is revealing what is mental illness, which is also informing the public as I'm publishing my documentation, which is literally a public service that's just built into prosecuting a government for gang stalking. And they're doing so as I'm capturing the fake sun over the same entrance. It's 2:16 p.m. and 18 seconds where you will see the fake sun. You will see engineered light that is reaching into the underneath a structure. Understand that, first of all, the fake sun is over the same entrance. Let's just use the time when it opens, 10 o'clock, 11, 12, 4 hours later, the fake sun's still over the same entrance. Not only is that not the sun, you're talking about what is the engineered light necessarily. That's also how you're understanding that they are stalking, number one, and that they are stalking with engineered light under what is a fake sun. That is hardcore evidence. I just want to be clear. A raw evidence of what is uncloseted mental illness. These are psychopaths who are obsessively stalking. And they are stalking in the absurd manner, showing you light that's appearing underneath a structure where the sun is above it. Light is not going to be under it. That is literally where shade is going to be. Not only is there light, it's light reaching into the depths. And as the entity that's gang stalking at around the same time they committed criminal summoning yesterday evening at 4:57, that engineer light continues into the depths of the building, into the entrance doors, stretching into the entrance doors where demons are walking through it, monitoring. While they walk in and out of the entrance of the library, they're monitoring me. They do so pursuant to what is ongoing concerted knowledge shared together as a demon-possessed population that are engaged in what is exposed as monitoring. Monitoring is demonic activity, and monitoring is capable of being prosecuted as the state of California is exposed for criminal surveillance that's happening in a readily identifiable specific environment, which is in defiance of science and nature, which is also the means whereby you're going to prosecute that government. And the entity is gang stalking. This is a demon and is engaged in what is criminal monitoring, psychological torture, and the perpetual sex offense with the City of Ontario, license 9CAL262. Stalking as I come to the entrance while that population is keeping me under surveillance. In doing so, license 10876W1. Engaging in what is criminal surveillance, psychological torture, the perpetual sex offense, keeping me under surveillance in doing so, and a third party getting out, walking into the entrance, is inside of the venue, engaging in that pattern of conduct. And this is also impunity that an entity is engaging in together while, remember, because of what is documentation, the entity is engaged in what is an ongoing escalation of federal charges regarding what is terrorism in the first place. Okay, these are demons that are holding the hands of children that are engaging in the same demonic pattern of conduct with the same knowledge. So this is shattering what are, again, illusions that you need to not be clouded by. Demons are under the age of majority, and terrorists are under the age of majority in the U.S. because that's what is the laws that are in operation while the people of the state utilize minor children to engage in the sex offense, to engage in psychological torture, to engage in what is criminal monitoring surveillance. And they're holding hands of these children inside of a, quote, family community library that's engaging in the ongoing contribution to delinquency of minors as the government's going to be prosecuted. And they're doing so pursuant to what are a bunch of demons just standing around stalking me.
right? They're maintaining presence as I walk throughout the library. It's not just people just walking by and just casually, coincidentally. They're all maintaining obsessive presence, making sure that they keep me surrounded everywhere that I move inside of the venue. And that is proof through the fake sun that's over the same entrance as it is at 10 o'clock in the morning. And what you saw Leonida Builders LLC committing was the maintenance of light activity at the same entrance with amplified audible activity at the same entrance, where the entity keeps the fake sun that is covering the elements of monitoring as I'm gang stalked upon entry and exit and throughout the totality of my time inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. This is speaking to what is mental illness, and the entity is psychologically torturing you while its mentally ill population is keeping you under surveillance. That's things such as the administration stalking by pacing in and out of the administration door, the demons that are pacing in and out of the entrance doors, the demons that are pacing, pushing around bookcases, and their purpose is to engage in stalking with noise, stalking with light, stalking in the path. This is the entity that shall be again committed and convicted. The entity is engaging in what is conduct that is also speaking to maniacal psychopathic disorders, deriving pleasure from harassing the targeted individual, which is what the employees at the OVITT Family Community Library and the Ontario Police and the people of the state committed yesterday. They derive pleasure from psychologically torturing people. These are demons. They derive pleasure from kidnapping, like the entity committed. This is speaking to the enthusiasm with which they're engaging in monitoring and the delusion that they suffer from relevant to their mental illness, that they're engaging in any sort of retaliation while they're being prosecuted. But that is what the entity seeks to commit while they engage in that P.O.C. with the very heavily and proven terrorists of the Ontario Police Department, who are all done with criminal conduct under the guise of masquerading as law enforcement. Nonetheless, they are engaging in that criminal conduct together, and the demon-possessed who are making up the entirety of the OVITT Family Community Library, they are psychopaths who indeed derive pleasure from it. This is an entity that commits murder and is satisfied in the depths of their dark souls. This is what needs to be known regarding serial killers, regarding pedophiles, regarding kidnappers, regarding liars who bear false witness in courtrooms in order to commit kidnapping as a government act. All right, that's what fills this venue, and these psychopaths derive pleasure from harassing me while I'm exposing them for monitoring me, like I'm asking them to monitor my vagina. Like I asked them to engage in what is lying on my character to commit a kidnapping because you're hostile, because I know what you're doing and I'm also proving it, and then you engage in that conduct because you're a psychopath. Okay, that's the entity that's posing a threat to a public. That's the entity that's occupying a fire department, a police department, an airport, driving around in ambulances, making up the neighborhood, giving birth to children who are then taught to be terrorists as their conduct is speaking to what is the P.O.C. that's underway amongst the population, exposing what is a matter of public corruption. Okay, I just want to be clear, Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields make up the Nephilim as well. These are demons that are monitoring me while an entity is keeping me under surveillance while they are still engaging in that P.O.C. Remember, Tracy Banks is illegally acquiring a secret and invalid conservatorship / power of attorney over me without my knowledge, without my participation, without any consent, without any law on her side or the government having any jurisdiction to do so. This is while the government is simultaneously keeping me under surveillance and under the false premises that the system operates under. Again, surmise that gang stalking would successfully result in what is my being criminally defamed, meaning depicting me as mentally ill while a bunch of demons who are proven to be psychopaths and violent sex offenders and serial killers were going to accuse me of being somebody that's, mentally ill in one way or another. This is what the P.O.C. is supposed to result in. This is why the government is targeting. And this is the Nephilim's concoction. Tracy Banks is a part of that entity, and this is why she has what is a fake conservatorship, an illegal conservatorship. This is why she is engaging in what is authority that a corrupt court has given her the ability to, again, this is all an entity, this is all corruption, okay? And this is also with her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields, engaged in marriage with Tracy Banks, engaged in a long-term sexual relationship with Tracy Banks, delusional. They share the same HIV virus. They are sharing the same mental illness, the same demons that are gang stalking me together and are benefiting from the entity targeting me to date, including through the pathetic iterations that I'm documenting a criminal summoning inside of this entity. Understand Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are a part of that. It's not going to result in anything successful in a federal court for these two. at all. But this is the criminal conduct that they are being prosecuted for, because they are at the forefront of why this government is targeting. And it is because, number one, let me be clear, do not be distracted. The fact that there is money and property on the line that this entity sought to gain is not the explanation for what are demons that engage in targeting people. Yes, they will target those that are of Christ, even if you don't have a dime. And that is speaking to, again, the maniacal psychopath that is speaking to a demonic spirit that possesses Jason Fields and possesses Tracy Banks. The fact that there is money and property on the line that this entity thought it was going to steal from me, okay, understand that that's relevant to what is motive. This is relevant to a prosecution, but this is a public service announcement. The Nephilim is here, and they are the demon-possessed that are monitoring. And it is where the government is engaging, it becomes legally relevant. It's criminal surveillance, and it is also inhumane. The entity is engaging in this because of their nature. They're demons. And that includes Jason Fields and Tracy Banks. All right, the entity is engaged in what is illegal targeting on behalf of those that have solicited this conduct, and Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are going to prison for it. They are also going to prison for stealing my money and property and have been living off of it for a prolonged term of years while I have been dispossessed. I've been suffering economically, and I've been targeted by the government, including by the OVITT Family Community Library, adding to that harm. And this is relevant to the civil and criminal prosecution. They are directly engaged in that ongoing targeting, while the OVITT Family Community Library is committing it as an entity on behalf of Tracy Banks and Jason Fields in the state of California. Okay, so I want to make sure that that's clear. There is no defense for Jason Fields and being lied to by his sex partner, his wife, that doesn't provide any sort of it doesn't sanitize his hands, if you will, with regard to the unclean hands that he maintains, where he has a responsibility as an official. Not only that, you are not supposed to be under any sort of position where you are under any circumstances not your wife, not your gay lover, not your dog, not your co-workers, exercising any undue influence over what is a responsibility under the law and your ethical responsibilities and the oath that you take. And when you are doing so, pursuant to this pattern of conduct, it's not just corruption, it is domestic terrorism. This is a terrorist, and you need to understand that he's a demon. So this is relevant to the spiritual condition. It's relevant to the nature of this entity, the demons that are free in this country. Okay, there are demons on the opposite side of this country. There are demons who are celebrities and public officials who are engaged in this system because of this is spiritual warfare. And I am prosecuting it in the physical with tangible evidence. But you need to understand the nature of what this is. Jason Isaac Fields was targeting me, period, before he even learned of the fact of me having money and property that he would be interested in abusing his job and losing his job and going to federal prison for, while engaging in what is targeting me with my fake mother, Tracy Banks. Okay, these are predators and these are murderers, and I am not the only person that Jason Fields and Tracy Banks have targeted. There is no defense here, and there's nothing that's going to sanitize. That's what I was searching for. There's nothing that's going to sanitize this corrupt official's hands, and federal prison is necessary, and it's also necessary with regard to my own protection, and I am entitled to that, as this terrorist is going to necessarily be in prison in order to accomplish what is my safely being removed and delivered from this circumstance, being having my property delivered to me, being restored with that which was stolen from me by this entity that is still targeting, and that includes any corrupt court. I just want to be clear. I don't want there to be any sort of confusion, and this is not charity, this is justice. And so it is insufficient for a court to sit around and study me and watch me in the same manner that the demons have been doing for years. It is insufficient for a court to permit ongoing suffering for 1 hour, where you are permitting any sort of corrupt entity that cannot be trusted, and it is already reasonably established before a court, a federal court, to then grant them any level of discretion to, at their time, at their when they feel like it, to continuously engage in voyeurism, studying, stalking, monitoring, terrorizing, psychologically torturing, and then at one point or another in the future doing what justice requires that you to do. You will not be depicted as a hero, and you will not be confused with that. And I'm not going to mince words with that. This needs to be known that I'm dealing with demons that are at every level of government, local, state, and federal. And the entity is engaged in what is targeting, and the demon-possessed are engaged in what are being forced to do under the law, that which they were under no circumstances having any intention to do. I'm the entity, again, that practices witchcraft, that is engaged in what is bullying, using the government and their government positions, had every intention to bury me 6 feet and then blame me for my own demise, stating that I'm a drug addict, I'm a prostitute, I ran away because I'm unstable, I always run away, I've been, crazy, and the city of Ontario would have been at the forefront claiming, oh yeah, she's been, we've been worried about her, she seemed like a nice girl. They'll put it in a nice way. But the entity is engaged in targeting. That's the pattern of conduct. But it's not going that way. And I'm also surviving in order to tell you about the threat that demons like Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac pose. Okay, these are psychopaths who are still spiritually attacking, and that becomes legally relevant. That's relevant to the intent, and that intent is also a matter of tangible evidence. The fact that you stole my money and property, the fact that you maintain an illegally acquired secret marriage to me on paper without my knowledge and consent, and you did it by fraud and defaming me in order to steal from me. And I remain dispossessed of property while you are sitting back watching like a psychopath. You're going to prison. I've been dispossessed of my money and property. I am still suffering real-time damages, which I'm documenting, because you, Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, are going to prison. Okay? And there's no amount of witchcraft that's going to deviate from that inevitable judgment. It's 2:47 p.m. The fake sun remains over the 215 East C Street, and this is where the fake sun remains, which you already know, and covering it up in the morning where Leonida Builders LLC is maintaining light activity and amplified noise, just like they are inside of the venue of the library where the same exact elements of monitoring remain underway. That is the entity that's keeping the fake sun until sunset at the same exact location, the Ontario Town Square. It's the same location. The Ontario Town Square, the Oval Family Community Library, the 280 North Limit Apartments, the Wells Fargo, the Mule Car Smokehouse. This is the entity that has the University of Laverne College of Law, the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario City Hall, Paul Leon, the demon himself. Okay, this is the entity that has the fake sun over the same exact location. Covering it up in the morning, like I stated, is only, again, persuasive to demons who are delusional, telling themselves that using spell work is going to get you out of a federal case. Okay? Telling yourself that harassing me in the spirit and nobody's going to know about the threat that you pose to my life because you're doing witchcraft and they can't prosecute that in court, they can't prove it, and no one's going to know about the criminal. You're delusional. You're delusional. Okay? I just want to be clear, I stated it before, and you are just now coming across evidence establishing that which I stated a very long time ago. And the law and my rights demand, and it is mandated, Jason Isaac Fields will never be in my presence. And he should not have been in any custody of my property in the first place, nor should he now. And it does not include him or require him for me to have my evidence, my intellectual property, any of my property delivered back to me intact. And that includes Tracy Banks. Okay, the entity that's holding onto my property is doing so in furtherance of the ongoing pattern of conduct. I just hope that you understand that. I remain subject to the pattern of conduct by the government that never had any lawful investigation. It was the P.O.C. Okay, and incompetent demons like Jason Isaac Fields are also the basis whereby I will be prosecuting the federal government. It is currently 2:49 p.m. and this.
All right, I do want to document what is San Antonio Regional Hospital. San Antonio Regional Hospital is, I believe, a third party as opposed to a state actor, meaning one that is, for example, Airhead Regional Medical Center, that's San Bernardino County. That's a state actor as opposed to what is, and it's a fine line because a lot of these hospitals have a lot of agreements and contracts with the city. But for purposes of documentation and prosecuting, San Antonio Regional Hospital would be classified as a third party. And I want to document San Antonio Regional Hospital. Remember, surveillance is underway on the venue of the internet, and San Antonio Regional Hospital is engaged in what is it's relevant to harassment by an entity that's engaged in monitoring online. If you'll recall my documentation in 2019, San Antonio Regional Hospital committed a kidnapping with the same demons of the Ontario Police Department, and did so with what is Officer Kessel and Officer T. Cho, and with Tracy Banks and Tommy Allen Banks and Eric Corey Spencer, and also Eric Spencer was with one of his many females, I'll just put it that way. Some irrelevant, forgettable. She's a demon, though. She was gang stalking. She was at Woodside Senior Apartments, and she is a third party, whoever it was, because he's with a lot of different. Matter of fact, I don't know everything that he is with, but what I've seen are women, okay, and I can't speak otherwise beyond that. And this particular female that I do not know was at the apartment and was monitoring me in concert with Tommy Allen Banks, who crossed state lines with the intent to engage in surveillance and commit a kidnapping via criminal defamation, with Tracy Banks, who called in backup to defame me, doing so pursuant to the kidnapping that you saw on May 29, 2025. This is what the entity committed on August 6, 2019, and did so by stating that, well, actually, Tracy Banks is a lot of the confusion that you see on video where they're lying and then I ask them questions and then they start contradicting each other. Kessel states that nobody called him, and then he states that he doesn't know who called him, and that Tracy Banks did not call him, but yet you're at Tracy Banks' apartment, and that he was called for no given reason. He doesn't know why he was there, and that, but nonetheless, he's there, and he's also, and Tracy is permitting them to, like, welcoming them, which is a threat, okay? It's just like criminal summoning that you see at the OVITT Family Community Library. The entity that's kidnapping you and stalking you as a department is directly threatening you while they're engaging in criminal summoning, even while talking to the people of the state. And their whole focal point is to target you. That's psychological torture that agency, the Ontario Police, have committed time and time and time again. They're being disbanded for it. That's a tactic of demons, okay, using dark psychological methods, dark psychology, and that's because they are demons as well. This is what Tracy Banks is engaging in her apartment. That loud crashing is a demon monitoring while I'm cleaning up my cell phone, closing windows on my cell phone. It's monitoring, all right? And the noise is significant because it's happening at the same time I'm using my phone in engineered light. These are demons that are monitoring. Nonetheless, San Antonio Regional Hospital is engaged in what is a method of, for example, psychological torture. The San Antonio committed a sexual assault and battery, and did so pursuant to kidnapping with the Ontario Fire Department, the American Medical Response, and the Ontario Police. This was, again, Officer Kessel and T. Cho, pursuant to criminal summoning. And Tracy Banks, again, nothing happened. Just like on May 29, 2025, absolutely nothing happened. She comes home and she starts, she gets herself in a frenzy. She gets herself getting herself, and you can hear my voice. I'm very calm, like, what happened? Because I'm dealing with a demon who's very unstable, and she's always plotting. She's highly unintelligent, but the only thing that she is creative with regard to how she's going to gang stalk me today, okay? But no manner or no quantity of creative means of being a demon is going to change what is her inevitable demise and the demons that targeted me with her. And that includes San Antonio Regional Hospital, who committed kidnapping with the corrupt agency, the Ontario Police, pursuant to a statewide pattern of conduct, not because of ignorance regarding the corruption of the Ontario Police, not because of ignorance regarding the corruption of the Ontario Fire Department or American Medical Response. These are corrupt actors that are engaging in the pattern of conduct as a city, as a state, and it includes San Antonio Regional Hospital, who committed kidnapping on August 6, 2019, pursuant to what is abuse of the Welfare and Institutions Code, where this entity is both gang stalking and then engaging in what is criminal defamation by abusing what is existing laws that they also, while engaging in surveillance, don't even have authority under, and they're doing so pursuant to what is an act of obstruction of justice. These are, in other words, demons that are mad because they're being documented, and so then they'll just have you arrested, make up information as to why. Oh, arrest her because she's crazy and she just attacked me, okay? Or arrest her because she's here molesting my kids. That's what the OVITT Family Community Library claimed, and that's what Tracy Banks claimed on May 29, 2025. Both are malicious assertions, and the Ontario Police is a part of that criminal act because they're monitoring and stalking, as they've proven unilaterally, and they know the falsity of those statements while they're sharing in the gang stalking with the people of the state, who need the people of the state to engage in summoning so that they can together engage in a kidnapping. San Antonio Regional Hospital is sharing a kidnapping, just like the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. okay? And they're doing so pursuant to what is abuse under the Welfare and Institutions Code as a medical facility that's engaged in surveillance, engaged in targeting upon surveillance, and sexual assault and battery. And having an ad pop up on YouTube that I've already shown as a part of the pattern of conduct. The surveillance is underway on the venue of the internet. Surveillance is underway inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, and everything inside of the library, including the computers and the internet access on the Ontario Wi-Fi, is a part of what is ongoing surveillance, and everything that you see pursuant to what is ads and whatnot is relevant to surveilling you. Surveilling you is also part of what is harassing you, psychologically torturing you, reminding you about a kidnapping that they committed. Okay, and this is relevant to the ad that pops up, and this is San Antonio Regional Hospital that I don't know why you would like to. Again, they're mentally ill. That's why demons do these things, pursuant to what is a real-time prosecution. However, San Antonio Regional Hospital committed kidnapping with the city of Ontario, and they do so pursuant to what is abuse of the Welfare and Institutions Code that they don't have authority under, and they also violate that abuse of the, violate that absence of abuse under the Welfare and Institutions Code, where I was kidnapped and kept against my will, when all they under the law have a right to do under those circumstances were ask me the customary questions. Do you feel like hurting yourself? Do you feel like hurting anyone else? These are basic questions that they intentionally refrain from asking. Engaged in what is monitoring through the demons who are at AMR were pacing through the hallway. The entity, the Upland Police, because San Antonio Regional Hospitals in Upland, California, were pacing over the hospital by helicopter, while demons pace in and out of that hospital, where they kept me in the hallway on a bed, handcuffed to it, while they were stalking with the demons of AMR, carrying laptops, talking about me but not talking to me, and defaming me through their audible activity. And they're speaking of, oh, she's mentally ill, she's a paranoid schizophrenic, this is the entity that's trying to scare me. It's while they're monitoring me. These are demons, though, and everything that they're speaking of is audible activity, and the substance of that audible activity was defamatory. This is criminal conduct by San Antonio Regional Hospital that are full of demons engaged in gang stalking inside of that hospital while they were engaged in a kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, American Medical Response, every medical professional that is employed at San Antonio Regional Hospital, and the people of the state. The entity doing so, again, you are aware of the crime scene that follows. The entity keeps the fake sun, as you already know, over me while I'm kidnapped inside of the back of the American Medical Response vehicle, and then they drive me, kidnap me, do so while they take me to San Antonio, where they're just monitoring me there. They do so by helicopter pacing over. They do so by pacing throughout that hospital. They do so by defamatory means of audible activity, by demons that are wearing uniforms, calling themselves EMTs, calling themselves MDs, medical professionals, and refraining from asking me very basic questions that could have been handled much sooner than they did, keeping me kidnapped and against my will, outside of what the law provides the parameters to engage in. And they did it upon kidnapping by Tracy Banks and Tommy Allen Banks, claiming that I attacked Tracy Banks. Again, this is the same pattern over and over and over again. Okay, and this is conducted with also Eric Spencer, who's there, and his trollop, whoever this cotton-headed demon was. I don't know what her name is, nameless demons that he is promiscuous with. They're engaging in the pattern of conduct together, kidnapping, and that's Woodside Senior Apartments, that you also know is gang stalking, sharing in that commitment. I've already sharing in that commitment to targeting me. That's why the fake sun is rising and setting at Woodside. Every angle of this case is already established. Documenting AMR, documenting Ontario Fire, documenting Ontario Police, documenting the City of Ontario, the fake sun over me everywhere in the City of Ontario, documenting the Woodside Senior Apartments, documenting Tracy Banks. Okay, documenting the people of the state. Tommy Allen Banks, Eric Corey Spencer, Tracy Banks, and anybody else associated with Eric Spencer would be bearing false witness in court about my character in order to steal my money and property to accomplish kidnapping, or the entity ultimately intended to commit murder. This is why Tracy Banks, the entity, has committed solicitation for murder. Okay, I just want to be clear on that. All angles of this case are already established, and San Antonio Regional Hospital is literally asking me to remind you about this criminal act that they committed. It is a corrupt establishment. It is a engaged in criminal surveillance, and they are this is relevant to what is a threat to American citizens that are in the city of Upland, in the state of California, where you are not aware of this system that's underway by the Nephilim that make up San Antonio Regional Hospital. They have multiple venues, by the way. San Antonio Regional Hospital, located at 999 San Bernardino Road in Upland, California, 91786.
And you have the Rancho San Antonio Medical Plaza in Rancho Cucamonga at 7777 Milliken Avenue, Rancho Cucamonga, California, 91730. The body of evidence already shows that the city of Rancho Cucamonga is engaged in gang stalking me. The Sierra San Antonio Medical Plaza at 16465 Sierra Lakes Parkway in Fontana, California, zip code 92336. The city of Fontana is already established as a matter of record, engaged in gang stalking me. The entities engaged in this P.O.C. and San Antonio Regional Hospital is a corrupt kidnapper and a violent sex offender. Not only did they engage in abusing the laws which they are entrusted with for the benefit to do no harm, they are gang stalking, engaging in what is psychological torture and engaging in what is defamation while engaged in the practice of medicine at the same time. That's Satan that engages in that. Okay, the unthinkable means of corruption, where you have that intersection of corruption in the medical profession, it is something that the public needs to be aware of. They kidnapped me pursuant to criminal defamation, and they also engaged in what is deriving pleasure from sexual assault and battery. Again, outside of what is merely asking me the questions that I could competently and quickly answer, and they know that. That's why they kept me against my will inside of that hospital while just pacing around like psychopaths, just like they are under the fake sun inside of the Open Family Community Library, just like they are under the fake sun on Euclid Avenue. It's not traffic. It's not takeoffs from the airport. It's nothing legitimate by the Ontario police using their helicopters. These are demons that are pacing all around me like sharks. This is what they were doing inside of the hospital. And they do so then by committing what is under the fake sun, is getting the context. Everything's centered around me while they're pacing around me. So the entities engaging in assault and battery, and instead of asking me questions, which under the law you're supposed to ask to make sure that someone is not a threat to themselves or another, with knowledge of the fact that I'm not mentally ill, why you're keeping me under surveillance, gang stalking me, you are then requiring me to strip nude, and you do so with 4 or 5 people in the room, males and females that are not of the medical profession, by the way. Okay, you have one that's a nurse. The rest of them are a bunch of demons that just want to see my breast. They want to see my nude body. This is sexual violence that San Antonio Regional Hospital committed, and they do so as an entity. Tracy Banks and Tommy Allen Banks and Eric Spencer and Jason Isaac Fields. Okay, who's been engaged in a long-term sexual relationship, defaming my character, and using the criminal conduct of San Antonio Regional Hospital, of Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, San Bernardino County, the means whereby the entity's been criminally defaming my character while keeping me under surveillance. And that surveillance, where they're denying that or acting like they're not engaging in it and denying it, in other words, is supposed to be the evidence establishing on paper only, where the ordinary target individual doesn't have evidence proving otherwise, that you're mentally ill. Okay? In whatever way, that entity that's not questioned and is given unfettered discretion and is given unquestioned legitimacy, which, as you are seeing, is totally unsubstantiated and unsupported because of the untrustworthiness of the government proven to be engaging in surveillance and even beyond that, gang stalking American citizens for things like money and property. Okay? The entities engaged in this in San Antonio Regional Hospitals, there's no statute of limitations. Okay. The entity engaged in stealing my property, so that was theft of evidence. This was a criminal act that was written out in the November 16, 2018 police encounters. The entity stole my evidence, and I want to be clear, that's relevant to what is federal prison, above and beyond what is kidnapping by the San Antonio Regional Hospital. Kessel and Cho are going to federal prison, and Cho was still alive and well, pumping blood still pumping into his heart because he was gang stalking me at the Ontario Police Department on July, that was 8th, 2025. The entity committed kidnapping on July 4, 2025, and then I go pursuant to what is theft of my property, because you're legally analyzing what is public corruption by a malicious entity that's keeping you under surveillance, masquerading as law enforcement. It's not safekeeping by an evidence department. It's theft of evidence while that entity is engaged in criminal surveillance, and upon what is obstruction of justice by kidnapping me and stealing my property and doing so. And so in July of 2024, the entity committed kidnapping on July 4, 2025, and I pick up my property on July 8, 2025, where T. Cho is captured on the record, and he committed kidnapping in 2019 with San Antonio Regional Hospital, and so did Kessel. There's no statute of limitations, and that's another basis of federal prison. Tracy Banks and Jason Fields have been engaged in a prolonged sexual relationship while her ex-husband, Tommy Allen Banks, who knows how many people Tracy Banks is actually married to and having sex with at the same time, at different times, all together, this is in a sex cult. These are demons that are engaging in what is the practice of witchcraft. This is relevant to the mental illness of Jason Fields and Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer. Their mental illness by targeting an innocent person, deriving pleasure from targeting. This is psychopathic. Okay, the malicious conduct, getting in a courtroom where you are maliciously making false statements because you want to steal money. Understand that's not just a mean person, that's a psychopath. Okay, the entity is engaged in this P.O.C. in San Antonio Regional Hospital commits a kidnapping, and the entity is monitoring on the video of the internet pursuant to my specific use of the internet while I'm being gang stalked and terrorized and violated inside of the OVITT Family Community Library. Okay, and it's very much tailored to you, and you need to know that about. I've already discussed this already. I've given a discussion on this surveillance on the internet. So it is very much tailored to you. It's very personal, and so since you want to remind everyone, Satan is committing a kidnapping via the San Antonio Regional Hospital, August 6, 2019. 2019, at the same Woodside Senior Apartments with Michael GERKEN, the Ontario Fire Department, American Medical Response, all proven on the record, already established as terrorists. Targeting me, committing a kidnapping together with the Ontario Police Department, enough said there, with the entity that's engaged in what is sexual assault and battery, and they wanted to stare at my nude breast with a group full of demons inside of that room where all they had a right to do under the law was ask me, do you feel like harming yourself? Do you feel like harming anyone else? They did not do that. They kept me handcuffed to a bed for hours, and then in the middle of the night, released me, and I was kidnapped at like maybe 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the entity also stole the evidence of this. T-Cho is going to federal prison. Okay, and so is Kessel. And the Ontario Fire Department is not a fire department, as they are showing you on a daily basis. They're being removed. It's surveillance, and it's a criminal waste of expenditures. And Paul Leon is being removed from office, and the city of Upland shares in that kidnapping. Again, city of Upland is already established on the record as engaging in targeting me. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's currently 3:11 p.m. The entity is maintaining a relevant position. Psychopaths are pacing in alignment to me while I'm on computer number 1, pacing in and out of what is the administrative staff. They are pacing in and out, and they do so with tags. They are engaging in what is accessing the door and identifying themselves and maintaining what is a timestamp when they're pacing in and out of that door, which is psychopathic behavior with the demons that are gang stalking as patrons inside of the library. Getting on computers 1 through 12 is pursuant to gang stalking me, and that's also what I'm showing you. They're going to the desk and asking a question. Oh my goodness, I don't know how to turn the computer off. Can you help me how to spell? How do you spell that? Can you help me figure out how to print? I don't know how to use the library card. What is that again? These demons are in here monitoring. They don't even read, and none of them know how to do anything, and it's relevant for what is pacing back and forth all around an engineered light while the fake sun remains over the library, and the demon-possessed are the employees themselves who are pacing all around inside of the doors, pushing around bookcases and slamming books like they are, while they are aware that they're being documented. Okay, and I documented that as well on the video of the internet. It is currently 3:12 p.m. All right, the entity engaged in ongoing gang stalking. This is sexual violence. It's sexual assault and battery with engineered light pursuant to monitoring, which is stalking. And this is state action that the state is sharing in by stalking with planes and doing so in that environment with the people of the state, and these are all demons. The crime scene is also established by the fake moon remaining over me from the Ontario Town Square to Euclid Avenue, where the demons are stalking in planes and stalking with impossible light. This is the P.O.C., and the people of the state are sharing in the perpetual sex offense, which is sexual violence at an inhumane level. That is the prosecution of the domestic enemies of the United States, the people of the state, and the domestic enemies of the United States, the state of California, the city of Ontario, the government that is engaged in criminal surveillance. And this includes what is criminal conduct, which I'm capturing, as I'm capturing this entity that is gang stalking and obsessively stalking to a delusional point. This entity is in real time engaging in criminal conduct that a federal court is permitting, and I'm going to prosecute the federal government for that. And Jason Isaac Fields is being prosecuted for that which he is still engaging in as an entity, as a demon-possessed entity. He's still engaging in spiritually attacking. This is relevant context regarding the threat that he poses. He's still engaging in what is criminal conduct as an entity. He's not withdrawn from that criminal system that I remain subject to. And while you are at the same time engaging in what is the pattern of conduct at a
at a distance from me, meaning you're not in front of my face gang stalking me, in the same way that Tracy Banks is in my face gang stalking me, and she is still fully a part of that entity. And Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are not distinct at all. And the entity is engaged in an ongoing campaign on the internet trying to render my evidence private so that you don't hear me remind you about the fact that Jason Fields is going to prison. He's going to prison for everything he remains a part of. And he's engaging in what is this ongoing psychological torture with the demons that are stalking under the fake moon, stalking with commercial planes, stalking with impossible light, and stalking as I'm going from place to place, which is ongoing terrorism that he is committing as an entity. And he's not ceasing to engage in that. Neither is that entity that is acting in concert, in total, okay? It is 7:52 p.m. As is captured to the Google Drive, the entity has published what is departures and arrivals at the airport. And the entity is engaging in what is stalking me by commercial planes as I'm at the Ontario Town Square. And then you will see the entity engaging in what is hovering over me as I move to Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. You will see the entity hovering over me as I migrate north of Euclid Avenue toward the Work Boot venue on Euclid, where the entity is engaged in ongoing sexual violence. This is not headlights that's causing multiple shadows of the environment. 8SAB249 is a demon sharing in the a sexual assault and battery as an entity. Hundreds of demons repeatedly molesting over and over. They are all stalking, and that is giving what is a legal significance regarding to any form of touching pursuant to criminal conduct by the government. That's keeping me under surveillance, and they're demons in doing so. This is the Nephilim, and they're being prosecuted for that. This is relevant to psychological torture. It's relevant to the crime, the act of terrorism, which is monitoring, okay? And monitoring is occurring with regard to the elements of monitoring with light, monitoring with audible activity, and monitoring in the presence. You have to be stalking me in order to monitor me. And that's what the government is doing through the population. It is a sex offense, a perpetual sex offense, because the demon-possessed are perpetually touching. All right? And they are perpetually engaging in sexual violence while they are stalking you as a population. Jason Isaac Fields is a part of that. He is engaging in what is criminal conduct, as I am documenting, and he's going to prison for that, and justice requires that. There is under no circumstances any support for what it is that I'm documenting, what it is that Jason Isaac Fields has already committed, and any sort of narrative that is seeking to establish him as anybody that could, under the law, outside of what is being subject to prison, for threatening my safety and well-being, having anything other than what is a federal case for targeting me, and targeting me in order to accomplish murdering me, which is exactly what he intended to do with Tracy Banks. That's exactly what he engaged in, acting in furtherance for years. Understand with regard to what is my evidence, disproving the lies that he told in court, disproving the lies that the entity has told upon my character. My ongoing documentation is the only reason why there is any sort of exposure with regard to any sort of measure of justice that I'm entitled to, because Jason Isaac Fields included was suppressing my evidence. Okay, so it was stealing my evidence and profiting from theft of that evidence. This evidence, which is also intellectual property that belongs to me. This is the entity that's engaging in that, and the federal court, understand, is engaging in what is this pattern of conduct, where understand how the system of gang stalking works by the government, where you are not engaged in interfering with it, stopping it, you are facilitating it. You're engaging in voyeurism. There's no investigation when I am the one that has conducted an investigation, and the investigation is under no circumstances pointing fingers at me or causing any sort of defamation toward my character, any sort of reflection of my character. My ability, my skill set is what is the ability to enforce my rights and protect myself from terrorists and sex offenders and psychopaths like Jason Isaac Fields. A demon that is still at this point seeking to manipulate what are the circumstances in order to avoid federal prison, and even turn against his co-conspirator Tracy Banks and try to blame her for as much as he possibly can to get away with criminal conduct that he shares in, that he is equally responsible for. Okay, I just want to make sure that that's clear. The people of the state are engaged in a sex offense with the Ontario International Airport. That's the city of Ontario. That is following me around. You're not taking off from the Ontario International Airport. And then when I walk north of, so then you are migrating north and you're still taking off at the same elevation, same volume level, and you're looking at right above my head is the entity stalking as I'm in subject to an ongoing perpetual sex offense, the entity terrorizing me by following me around in commercial planes. The entity engaging in what is flying towards stalking and then making a U-turn in the middle of Euclid Avenue. That has nothing to do with the published departures that are headed toward Las Vegas at what will be 7:30 p.m. Frontier Airlines from gate 210, flight number F94758 going to Las Vegas. This is an entity that's engaged in what is blatant stalking, and this is terrorism while you are being targeted with planes and helicopters in the city, and while you are being targeted by a population of psychopaths who are obsessed with my vagina, stalking me in the bathroom of the OVITT Family Community Library, keeping a fake son, and then when they're gang stalking with the police who are anticipating documentation, they still engage in impunity. That's documented. But they just cover up the fake son as they do so, which is relevant to malice, not intelligence. This is relevant to the malice of Jason Isaac Fields. Has been gang stalking me with the Ontario Police, criminally defaming me with the Ontario Police for years. And he's going to federal prison. Okay? This is an ongoing perpetual sex offense. It's psychological torture. It's ongoing criminal monitoring, which has been defined and proven with regard to the pattern of conduct. And it is relevant to what is ongoing surveillance that a federal court is facilitating as I remain subject to it. Okay? I just want to be clear because this is relevant to what is ongoing harms that I am suffering while the entity is in the face of the federal government stalking me with commercial planes. Which of those planes include the federal government that's stalking in planes? Or which flights by the Ontario Police Department is the federal government aware of outside of my documentation? Okay, what is it that I'm publishing on my website and YouTube that is confusing the federal government with regard to ongoing ceaseless psychological torture, or is the federal government also interested in my miraculous death from some sort of witchcraft that the entity is just hoping is going to take effect at the last minute? There is no justification under the law with regard to what the entity is committing against me, and it is relevant to what is obstruction of justice, and it is at the federal level. I want to be clear. But I said it before, and I will say it again. Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are 50-50. They are hand in hand. With the criminal conduct that I'm documenting, with the terrorism that I'm documenting, but also with regard to the criminal conduct that they are both responsible for. They engaged in sexual activity, both consenting to it. They engaged in co-conspiring my murder and psychological torture and torment, intending to steal my money and property. They went hand in hand in on that. And he's going to prison, and so is she. If she's going to federal prison, so is he. If she is guilty, so is he. If she's held responsible, so is he. He would like to lessen his culpability, and it's impossible to do so under the evidence. It's also impossible when you are in the position that Jason Isaac Fields holds, and you want to then somehow be relegated to being a child that's not capable of making decisions as a grown adult, a professional with ethical and legal responsibilities. And some high school graduate that you're having anal sex with is controlling your mind. Any sex rituals, any demon possession, these are not legal defenses for Jason Isaac Fields. This is context regarding letting you know what is the cause of the demented behavior of the people of the state, the demented behavior of the government that's engaged in criminal conduct under all circumstances. This is relevant for committing Jason Isaac Fields. This is relevant for the mental examinations that Jason Isaac Fields needs and requires. The same with Tracy Banks. But it is no defense in federal court. He's going to prison, and so is she. And they're going to prison for what I remain subject to this moment. And the entity is still engaging what is inflicting this ongoing targeting, and doing so for the purpose of seeking to, how can they escape judgment? How can they escape prosecution? How can they escape the consequences for what they've done? And they're still doing it. Jason Isaac Fields is still gang stalking. Tracy Banks is still gang stalking. They're both monitoring my vagina, okay? And they're doing so in concert with the entity. This is P.O.C. That's what is incentivizing Julia Gu and Kurt Hagman and Ronald Leverage and Alan D. Wapner and the entity, Jim Bowman, that are stalking me as a corrupt airport, using the resources of the government, in other words, which is relevant to a federal government that's acting through a corrupt city like the city of Ontario, gang stalking me. in a failed effort, and in a publicly exposed failure to target me in any way that's going to reflect poorly on my character. Because that's what they were banking on. Hopefully, the gang stalking, which is what actually is happening, is going to cause me to have a breakdown, and then regardless of the fact that you're targeting me, my breakdown is going to be the evidence that supports the lies that were stated in court against my character. Never mind the fact that I wasn't in court. Never mind the fact that I didn't get an opportunity to participate and learn about my property. Never mind the fact that you already spent my money and living on my property, stole my intellectual property. Never mind all of that. This is the entity that's acting with that level of desperation. Jason Isaac Fields is a psychopath, and he needs to be committed. This is the evidence exposing what is severe mental instability. But it needs to be a matter of what is an actual diagnosis, because it makes no sense what this entity engaged in and what you were intending to be the result. It would require corruption of the federal government. And I want to be clear, I am documenting that which is facilitation by the federal government as I remain subject to it. Jason Isaac Fields, the feds are requiring corruption in order to get away with what the entity has already committed. It would require corruption, because you're never going to get past the fact that I had nothing to do with any of these court hearings and the theft of my property. You're never getting past that. So if I were to step in the middle of the street and respond as a normal human being, by the way, not having any sort of mental illness, that's what that is actually. If any American citizen is targeted and they respond in that way, where you cannot prescribe how a human being, a fragile, delicate mind, is going to respond to being targeted in the psychopathic manners that the Nephilim are attacking a human being. Were I to engage in that, it is not keeping Fields out of prison. You don't engage in what is terrorism in order to protect yourself because you chose to engage in corruption. You're going to prison. And this is my investigation exposing a corrupt official, a corrupt government. And Fields is mandated to prison for it. He is delusional. He is HIV infected and is engaged in what is gang stalking me as though there's going to be some sort of reconciliation in the future. There will not be. He will not even be in my presence. And that's as a matter of federal law. Not only that, he's a documented terrorist. He's been gang stalking me. There will not be any reconciliation, nor am I required to, nor is anybody required to have any sort of dealings with a documented terrorist that has targeted you. He's engaged in sexual activity with my mother. There will be no reconciliation with this HIV-infected, demon-possessed, gang-stalking psychopath. And those all apply. That's not just name-calling. There will be no reconciliation. And the federal government is not in any position where they should be aiding to what is threatening my life and safety by such a state actor. But I want to be clear. It's relevant to the ongoing gang stalking that I'm subject to. And there is no route to removal from federal prison for Jason Isaac Fields for the ongoing gang stalking that I'm subject to. In fact, because I remain subject to this targeting, it is direct evidence regarding the malice with which Jason Isaac Fields targeted me, claiming to conduct an investigation. Already knowing that I'm not mentally ill. He knew I wasn't mentally ill when we were talking on the phone every day. He knew that I wasn't mentally ill when we were in college at Valley College when he was targeting. He's been gang stalking before he was working with the federal government, targeting me for money and property. It's a lie, and it's disingenuous, and it's a misrepresentation of fact to try to blame it on Tracy Banks. He's going to prison. He's going to federal prison. He's a demon. He's the same Nephilim. And he is not going to escape judgment. He's not one that's going to be released so that one demon can escape and keep me under surveillance and follow me. This is what these demons are. It's not going to happen. He's going to federal prison. It is currently 8:05 p.m. The entity that's engaged in obstruction of justice, removing evidence off from the folder where you would access it. I took screenshots of that. This is what is serving to protect terrorists like Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks. The entity that's engaged in ongoing gang stalking is doing so under the delusional prospects that Jason Isaac Fields is avoiding federal prison. He's not. His federal imprisonment is necessary to my safety and protection, enforcement of my rights against a corrupt official that defamed me, and it has resulted in what is over 7 years of homelessness, of being dispossessed of money and property that belongs to me, of the utter destruction of my professional career. I actually went to college and law school. He engaged in gay sex and sex rituals to get to the position, whatever it is that he stole, and he's going to give it back as a demon. What you get from Satan for getting on all fours, you're not going to hold on to that in the first place. And he certainly isn't holding on to money that he stole from me. He's going to prison for it. The entity is engaged in the ongoing sex offense, so I want to document now. Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue, the Downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments at 320 North Euclid Avenue, Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, the UNICARE Community Healthcare Center documented on the same intersection at E Street and Euclid, the Gloria's Cochinas, the U.S. Bank at 333 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California, the Bucket Crab and Crawfish, the Bethel Congregation, that's right here at F Street and Euclid Avenue. These are facilitating venues where the demon-possessed are maintaining presence around me, and they're sharing in what is the perpetual sex offense. And this is, again, government action. You're going to be prosecuted if you, being a gang-stalking church, you're going to be prosecuted under the law. You're a third party. You are going to be prosecuted as every other third party. And by the way, I documented Bethel Congregation, and the fake sun is over me while I'm inside of that church, outside of that church building. Those are demons. Like I told you, a title doesn't mean anything. They can call themselves a charity. They can call themselves a kindergarten school. They can call itself a family community library. You can call yourself a church. You can call yourself a Christian. All right? Under the fake sun amongst engineer light, you're a demon. And you're nothing other than exposed as a liar, a malicious one. That's it. Okay? This is the P.O.C. The entities engaging in that ongoing sex offense together as an entity and engaging in the pattern of conduct of stalking with light. Let me get this license plate. Engaging in what is molestation with impossible light activity. This includes license plate 8YNN351. That's a demon, a sex offender. 46581M2. That's a sex offender. Repeatedly engaging, and this is Jason Isaac Fields, through the thousands of people that are targeting me, and he's going to federal prison for it. All right, these are the consequences. These are the breaks of engaging in terrorism. License 7BW. Changing their mind about making a turn. License 7BWZ257 in operation of their communication device at F Street in Euclid and stalking in the path, intending to engage in what is sexual violence. None of this is traffic. They're all stalking me, and the government doesn't have any warrant or probable cause to engage in criminal surveillance via the roads and the highways. This is a prosecution by being on the street. It's a prosecution for having your business at that address. Just want to be clear. It is currently 8:08 p.m. And I'm going to document the people of the state engaging in gang stalking me and engaging in a perpetual sex offense, which is relevant to what is mandatory federal prison when you are subject to terrorism by a corrupt official that is soliciting that in order to protect himself. This is a coward. Not just a homosexual, not just Tracy Banks' sex partner, not just a fake friend, not just a demon. This is a coward. And Jason Isaac Fields is a terrorist, and the federal government that permitted him, the federal government that is still facilitating this ongoing violence and terrorism I'm subject to. That's also relevant to those that are going to be prosecuted. And it needs to be understood that I'm entitled to this under the law. So just want to make sure that that's understood. That's audible noise and engineer lights pursuant to criminal monitoring under Title 18. All right, the people of the state engaged in targeting, doing so as an entity, license plate, monitoring my vagina inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, and then the demons all ushering, maintaining surveillance in the library, even as I'm like one of the last people in the library, maintaining presence in that library to make sure that somebody is stalking in the path. That includes the Securitas security guard. That includes the demons that are standing around the door, outside of the door. They're stalking in the path, and I captured the fake sun after 6 p.m. Don't forget that the demons engaging in criminal summoning at the OVITT Family Community Library yesterday at around 4:55 p.m. covered up the fake sun. But yet it's remaining well after 4:57 p.m. today, after 6 p.m. in fact. And you'll see that while I'm walking out of the entrance where everybody was monitoring my vagina inside of the bathroom, for which Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison. Incalculable harms, psychologically harmful in nature, and sexually predatory, perverted conduct, sexually motivated conduct. Psychopaths like Jason Isaac Fields relevant for what is mental examinations, which he is in need of, by even soliciting this sort of violence against any person, let alone a woman. Okay? And this is because he wants money, he wants property, he wants to get away with criminal acts that he's committed. All right? License plate 9URM614. License 7CTW066. 9GKU812. 6UAU091. EG15Z10, that's a paper plate. 8LYD199. 9DLA324.
63A2BDE, that's an Alabama plate on a Honda Accord. License plate 8DSG505, 9HCM416, 9MLH918. These demons engaging in surveillance, stalking on the first floor. Again, I'm walking downstairs to use the restroom, and the entity is engaged in, even though the library is closing, they're maintaining surveillance by maintaining presence on the first floor, even while the library is closing. And these two, it's a Caucasian male and a Caucasian female, again, a heterosexual lifestyle, but a homosexual woman. In fact, this is a demon-possessed female monitoring my vagina with her boyfriend, sex partner, whatever they are together. They're together, and they're both monitoring my vagina together. And they're stalking on the first floor, maintaining presence as I go into the bathroom, where all of the entities are violating my privacy together. Okay, this is never before contemplated violation of privacy in a private space where you maintain a reasonable expectation of privacy in a bathroom, in any bathroom. Okay, and that includes while you're being kidnapped by demons like the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They're engaging in surveillance, not the maintenance of a legitimate facility. It's a kidnapping, and it's not going to be converted to that, and they're going to be prosecuted as a sex offender accordingly. Okay, the entity's engaging in what is gang stalking through a homosexual female, and through her gang stalking boyfriend, whatever he is. They're on the first floor at approximately 5:56 p.m. License 5WQF871, and the entity shares in what is the ongoing perpetual sex offense while hundreds of people are molesting me together, engaging in a demonic orgy. Okay, this is what Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks like to engage in together. Okay, I'm not into orgies. I'm not into people touching me in a sexual manner that I don't consent to, but these pedophiles are. These sex offenders are. And they're going to be prosecuted accordingly, and it includes 5WQF871. License 6KFE523. License plate 6DQK732. And the Ontario International Airport is stalking a commercial plane over the Ontario Town Square. Where you're looking at not sunlight in the sky, that's engineered light. There's not going to be any sunset, no amber colored sky of a remaining sun that is setting, that's there at 7 in the morning. That is the evidence of stalking in the first place, and they're stalking me where I'm located, and they're also stalking where I leave that Ontario Town Square, and I'm capturing the plane stalking as I'm at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, standing outside of Starbucks in between Chevron and that Starbucks. So the entity is stalking while I'm on Euclid Avenue, doing U-turns in the middle of the street. They're stalking. They're engaged in the elements of monitoring, and you are stalking while you're in my path, creating amplified noise and light activity. They're stalking. Okay, this is license plate 6FOT268. All right, and let me document this.
PRV072, molesting, and that is ARCO, that's molesting at 434 North Euclid Avenue.
Alrighty, license plate 7JLZ748. Engaging in molestation while a demon is gang stalking on a bike behind me, and the demons that are on the roads and the highways are sharing with molestation. Understand that the demons that are walking by and the demons that are riding by, they're doing so in engineered light. They are monitoring me, and they are equally obsessed with me. And the demons on the roads and the highways that I'm documenting are engaging in what is substantial molestation with impossible light. This is terrorism while they engage in this mentally depraved, this mentally demented conduct with demons that are together targeting me. You have what is the supernatural while somebody is walking by me, and the engineer light begins floating all around, covering everything, including my body, while a demon is in the path next to me. And this is what they're also doing while they're hostile about demons being documented on my device. These are the demons that are engaging in gang stalking on the roads and the highways. There's no warrant or probable cause for the government to engage in surveillance in the ways in which I've proven and exposed. And this is a prosecution on its face. For me to get your license plate, it's a prosecution. But the entities engage in this, and this is what Jason Fields is going to prison for. Okay? License plate
8F, that's what the entity is doing on a ceaseless basis. At 2 o'clock in the morning, when you are sitting by me on the bench, you're sitting by me on the bench in concert with, you already know that they're gang stalking because the demons of the Ontario police are stalking a helicopter. But moreover, they're stalking because the engineer light is here. There is no natural explanation for your driving your car and engineer lights sweeping all across the bench while you're driving north and south. While you're engaging in what is driving in any direction, none of that light activity is occurring. In the same way that light, your sunlight, nor are headlights swimming inside of the Starbucks, any Starbucks, contrary to what I documented, when you're driving on Euclid Avenue. And you're doing so while a demon is walking by me on the bench. The same demons that want to disrobe me and touch me when I'm in an unconscious state so that they can molest me with this impossible light. Those are the sex offenders engaging in sexual assault and battery. That is the sexual violence that Jason Isaac Fields has committed. Engaging in sex trafficking me, he's going to federal prison for that. Understand that when you're engaged in sex trafficking like Jason Fields has, you're engaging in that upon federal group stalking and monitoring. You're not an ordinary sex offender. You are the government engaging in sexual violence, terrorism. Terrorists go to prison. You're a terrorist that committed sex trafficking upon gang stalking. You're going to federal prison. It's a sex crime. It's a collateral criminal act upon terrorism by the state. And this is what Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields have committed. My genitalia being on any website, OnlyFans, wherever, these demons were sitting around masturbating and having sex rituals while looking at my nude body. Jason Isaac Fields is, again, in need of serious mental assistance. He needs mental examinations. This is relevant and at the forefront of his prosecution. It is relevant to the threat that he poses to my life and safety. He will never be in my presence, ever. And he's also not going to be in my presence, and it's relevant to and making sure that every terrorist, including Tracy Banks and Fields, everybody having a hand in seeking to target me by defaming my character, including Fields, being put in prison as I am removed from this circumstance. I am recovering and giving back all of the property that was stolen to me, all my money that was stolen, taken from me, and being in a position where I don't have to worry about terrorists like Jason Isaac Fields being free, where I don't have to worry about that. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and Jason Isaac Fields is a part of this mentally depraved conduct. License 7JLZ748, 8FOS286, Omnitrans gang stalking right now. They're crossing path, and they're doing so at 8:19 p.m. Route 83 going southbound. They're gang stalking and doing so. They're sharing in that sex offense. License 9JLC187. License 9FNG6D3 or 603. License 7RUZ505. License 9KCY229. 9LLR870. License 6PKV500. 9LEV015, 880JM, that's a handicap plate. License 9JFM563, license 9SVL749, license ANRSG, and this is a demon that is affiliated with the United States Marine Corps. Documented those demons gang stalking me before. Demons are a part of corrupt law enforcement agencies. I've already documented that. They're also part of the military. This is what Tommy Allen Banks represents. This is what Leroy Spencer represents. This is what Jason Isaac Fields represents. And the U.S. Marines, this Arkansas license plate ANRSG. This is a demon-possessed gang stalking third party that's engaging in what is the pattern of conduct and is engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, and it is not different under any circumstances at all. The only difference is what? The license plate says it's a U.S. Marine. And you need to know that the demons joined the Marines in the United States. Okay? License plate 5SHM821. License 9JYY458. License 7RGE879. 5ZVK607, in case I might have read that one already. Yeah, 9FMB802, 9TGA648. They are together. I just want to be clear. Everything that I'm documenting, this ongoing sexual violence, all I'm doing is identifying specific third parties. The entire entity is accountable for it, including, again, Tracy Banks and Jason Fields. But these third parties are sharing in that. It's not just what they did at that specific time as I'm documenting. Oh, no. They're being prosecuted for the entirety of that sex offense, which is ceaselessly underway. They're monitoring my vagina. They're stalking me in bathrooms. They're engaging in psychological torture that is sexually motivated. Okay, they're engaged in sexually traumatizing, sexually perverted. They're doing so as an entity, an entire entity. And that includes these demons by license plate. All right, license BL26P64. That's a California paper plate. All right, license plate. That's amplified audible activity while demons are molesting with impossible light, including license 8HYR373. Now you're looking at, while you hear that plane activity over 537 North Euclid Avenue, Ronald Leverage, Julia Gu. These are the ones that are going to be prosecuted for kidnapping. They're going to be prosecuted for terrorism. They're going to be prosecuted for inflicting psychological torture as a corrupt terrorist and using what is an entire airport in your position as a corrupt airport board, while you are also keeping my evidence against you and against this entity under surveillance. That's relevant to Kurt Hagman. That's relevant to Jim Bowman and Alan D. Wapner. That's relevant to the Ontario board and also the Ontario the board and the executive board. They have two, the executive board and the, hold on, let me document. The, like 9 additional parties. While I'm seeking the names of the state actors of the Ontario International Airport, 8:23 p.m. as the demons fly over by plane, as I'm reciting the names of the terrorists that are being removed from position that's relevant to kidnapping for terrorism and multiple kidnappings at the Ontario International Airport, including the demons that are in positions of authority while they're engaged in targeting me. The Ontario Police Department is stalking by helicopter and molesting me with impossible light by demons at the bucket, crawfish, and crab. They're engaged in what is a sex offense together with the Ontario Police Department. Okay, the entities engaging in what is stalking at the same time by plane and helicopter. This is the Ontario Police that are stalking under a fake sun at the Ontario Police Department. Those are demons. Using the helicopter to stalk me at the Ontario Police Department under the fake sun that's never over that. When, at what point when it's remaining over the OVITT Family Community Library is it going to be at 9:16 a.m. at the, those are the demons that are stalking by helicopter right now, and they do so in concert. Julia Gu is definitely engaged in kidnapping me with the Ontario Police Department. She's going to be prosecuted for that. She is a terrorist. And she's intentionally threatening me while the Ontario police are engaging in that in real time with the airport and in sexual violence with the demon-possessed people of the state. She shares in that sex offense. This is another homosexual, a psychopath. That is a terrorist and an enemy of the United States. And they call themselves an Ontario board for the airport, the Ontario International Airport. Now, the entity that's engaging in this, I want to identify them. I do have their names here. Atif El Khadi on the Ontario executive team. This is Atif El Khadi, Karen Kavanagh, Angela Lauber Conroy, Celeste Heinonen, Charles Miwa, Elisa Conroy, James Kessler, Jamal Aviles, Aaron Cello, and this is Orsello. The entities engage in this while the Ontario police are stalking as the City of Ontario, just like the Ontario Executive Board and the Ontario Airport Board is gang stalking, while the people of the state are engaging in the sex offense of molesting with light, stalking on the roads and the highways under Title 18, while the entities engaged in what is stalking by planes and helicopters, and the Ontario Airport Board and the Ontario Executive Board are sharing in that ongoing terrorism. In fact, they're doing so in concert with terrorists like Jason Isaac Fields, who was hoping that this sort of chaos, hoping that this sort of terrorism was going to result in my having some sort of mental breakdown, and that you would also at the same time, as a corrupt federal government, would witness the federal government just pacifying what Jason Isaac Fields has committed and the defamation that he's committed, and that the fact that I wasn't in court when he was defaming me and I was subject to gang stalking like I am now, that's just going to be overlooked, and that my having a breakdown is going to support the defamation that he committed. And that's why the entity is gang stalking now. Fields is going to prison. 1103ZZ3 is gang stalking with the Ontario police, who are flying over me at 537 North Euclid Avenue. The entity is stalking with light, stalking by planes and helicopter at the same time. That is, again, Julia Gu and Ronald Leverage, Jim Bowman, Carl Hagman, the Alan D. Wapner, the entity that's engaged in what is terrorism as a corrupt board. They're doing so with the Ontario Police Department, and they are demons alike. And the entity is stalking as the city of Ontario, using the helicopters in the city to engage in terrorizing and threatening and psychologically torturing, using the commercial planes to engage in stalking and terrorism and psychologically torturing while they're doing so as I am documenting it, with which they are keeping under surveillance. That's why they engage in covering up a fake sun when this Ontario police engages in criminal summoning. Okay, this is the same agency that's lying about why they are in my presence, making up information, and they are being disbanded, and it is, again, the prosecution of terrorists of the Ontario Board. P.O.C. Molestation with impossible light, that's what I'm capturing at the same time. The people of the state engage in the perpetual sex offense while the city of Ontario is stalking by plane and helicopter and concentrating on their location by me. I want to be clear, this is the entity that's committing murders together, that's engaging in kidnapping together, that's engaging in what are malicious assertions together. This is the entity that engaged in claiming that I molested children at the OVITT Family Community Library. The Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, they're going to federal prison for kidnapping with the city of Ontario that is stalking me by helicopter. That's what they were doing at the OVITT Family Community Library. This is the entity that stated that I was harassing them while they are gang stalking me by plane and helicopter. This is what they were doing at the Ontario Town Square on September 28, 2025, where they're engaging in with Securitas, that's federal prison, for that chubby security guard that's gang stalking under the name of what is Securitas, that doesn't have any constitutional right, nor a right in the United States to maintain what is any sort of business where they are engaging in terrorism like Securitas is doing, and what is kidnapping. That's what Securitas is doing with this agency that is stalking. This is Vivanco. This is Joseph Valencia engaging in what is assault and battery, sexual assault and battery, unlawful search of my property, while they're at the same time lying with the same demons that are gang stalking me. This is the entity that's targeting together, including the demons of the Ontario Board that are stalking and terrorizing with commercial planes. Understand all of that's underway. And this is what Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are intentionally targeting me with. This is how all those facts work together. And the bigger picture is that the federal government is permitting it to go on. The federal government that is also incriminated by what it has committed. Jason Fields is under all circumstances going to prison. This is what he's been doing to me for years with the state of California. He's gang stalking me with LAPD. He's gang stalking me with the Fontana Police Department. He's gang stalking me with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department that are all targeting me while I'm at Alvarado Gardens, for example. He's gang stalking me when I'm in Pasadena with the Pasadena Police. He's gang stalking me when I'm in West Covina with the West Covina Police Department and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department again. He's gang stalking me when I'm in Pomona, California, with the Pomona Police Department, the entity that's targeting as corrupt law enforcement agencies, and the people of the state they're all doing the same thing, stalking with light, while the fake sun's over me in Pomona, the fake sun's over me in Pasadena, the fake sun's over me in Los Angeles, the fake sun's over me in West Covina, and this is all on the record. The Ontario police are putting the gang stalking police officers in prison, and the gang stalking people of the state engaging in criminal summoning with them in federal prison, and the gang stalking demons sitting on the Ontario Board, who commit kidnapping while I document commercial planes stalking me at the Ontario Town Square, who engage in what is malicious assertions claiming that I'm harassing. Understand that those are lies asserted as an entity, while Julia Gu is very much engaging in that pattern of conduct, while she's keeping my evidence under surveillance. That's why a fake sun is over me. And the entity stalking by commercial planes right here where I'm at, with the Ontario Police Department right here where I'm at, as I'm documenting the people of the state sharing in that pattern of conduct, which is not helping the people of the state. I'm going to continue reading their license plates right now. And the entities acting together while they commit kidnapping together. This is, again, Jim Bowman, Kurt Hagman, Julia Gu, Ronald Leverage, Alan D. Wapner, engaging in what are repeated kidnappings with the entity. Who is engaged in stalking me at the OVITT Family Community Library with commercial planes? That's the same city of Ontario, the Ontario International Airport, that is engaged in every single plane. That demon-possessed, gang-stalking Ontario Board and Executive Board are engaging in targeting me, and those are just the names of them. That's relevant for prison. That's terrorism. The entities engaging in terrorism, it's not your ordinary domestic terrorism, because you have what is the entity that's engaging in terrorism as a whole population, as a corrupt government. As opposed to one Unabomber that's terrorizing, as opposed to maybe the entity flying 2 planes into the Twin Towers in New York, and they are also at the same time killing themselves in doing so, and then getting the terrorist leader Osama bin Laden, or so we were told, at least that's the leader, when we are subject to acts of terrorism in the United States, where the United States is engaging in terrorism in the same manner. All right, but that's neither here nor there. The entity is engaging in that, and I want to be clear, the entity is doing so while the number of terrorists is greater because the government and the people are engaging in that. With regard to federal prison, it is going to be an eye for an eye. You engage in kidnapping, you're going to federal prison. You engage in facilitating, enabling kidnapping, you're going to federal prison. And those are those that are in a position to enable it. This is relevant to Mike LORENZ. This is relevant to Michael GERKEN. This is relevant to the demons on the Ontario Airport Board, the demons on the Ontario Executive Board, the demons that are engaged in real-time surveillance of my documentation, and then I'm subject to ongoing terrorism by planes and helicopters where I'm located, where demons are molesting with impossible light activity, and they are doing so as an entity. Every license plate that I read is sharing and threatening me together because I'm reading their license plates. This is the entity that's going to be prosecuted for. They are enemies of the United States. And this is relevant to Jason Isaac Fields. There is no not coincidence. There is no mystery here. Vivanco and Valencia and Durham were engaged in gang stalking me at the Ontario Town Square, and they're going to federal prison. They're going to federal prison. They just happen to be highly unintelligent. They made up a nonsensical lie that I am clearly shattering in their presence while they still committed the kidnapping, and they were doing so with the entity stalking by helicopter at that. After they committed the kidnapping and theft of my property and my evidence. They're going to federal prison. And this is ongoing gang stalking. And the entity's doing so while I'm at the same time conducting the investigation to prosecute them. You're going to federal prison. I stated that before. The kidnapping on July 4, 2025, they're going to federal prison. That was with Starbucks. The kidnapping on July 15, 2025, that's Hazelwood and Owens. That's an attempted kidnapping, federal prison. They put their hands on me. They bruised my wrist in doing so. They're hurting me, and it's also psychologically harmful to be repeatedly kidnapped. You're going to federal prison for that. The entity engages in kidnapping, again, September 28, 2025. They're going to federal prison. The entity is engaging in kidnapping on May 29, 2025. That's Tracy Banks. That's Woodside Senior Apartments with the same agency. They're going to federal prison. The September 25, 2020 kidnapping, the June 18, 2021 kidnapping, the January 13, 2020 kidnapping, S. Patty kidnapping in summer of 2020 as well. She engaged in kidnapping on more than one occasion. She's going to federal prison. This is years of gang stalking. There's no coincidence that they're flying over me where I'm located at F Street and Euclid Avenue repeatedly on an ongoing basis, including where I'm documenting a fake sun remaining over me for the duration of the day on one street where the demon-possessed license plates are being read, and they're engaging in a sex offense together with that government. Those are the ones that commit criminal summoning, and they're going to federal prison. They're also going to be prosecuted and exposed. These are domestic terrorists by the thousands. They fill the state. And they're engaging in terrorism with that entity that's targeting through aerial surveillance. Those are the ones that are going to prison. Those are the ones that are all going to be prosecuted. And I am reading many of their license plates. But the entire city of Ontario, for example, is engaging in domestic terrorism. It's an enemy of the United States. I'm documenting a whole municipality, a whole population. Every household, every business, every level of government. They're engaging in what is this pattern of conduct with knowledge that they're being documented. It is a tactic of obstruction of justice. And it's directly relevant to, you can look it up on X, you can look up my evidence on YouTube. Everybody that engaged in kidnapping, they're going to prison. Because that's what it is. You're stalking me. And you're clearly targeting. And so is Jason Isaac Fields. And this is also demonstrating the necessity of his being placed in federal prison. And any and every federal official, judges that are permitting this level of terrorism to an American citizen, this is not designed for a normal person to stomach, to withstand. And I'm not looking for an applause. I'm looking for the terrorists to be put in prison. That's where they're going. And since the federal government didn't do their job, the federal government isn't the one that proved the case. I did. The federal government is the one that's still sitting around. I want you to understand, I am also the one that is letting it be made known what justice requires, and you're going to prison. You're not negotiating with me. You're not going to force me to negotiate any dollar amount. You're going to federal prison, and I'm also going to get my money with interest. This is the entity I'm going to civilly and criminally prosecute. All of that is going to happen. All of it. I just want to be clear. This is what happens when a corrupt government is exposed and when a corrupt government is forced to prosecute itself based on an American citizen's ability to prosecute and prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. In fact, to a scientific degree. And Jason Isaac Fields is indeed going to federal prison for this criminal conduct that he is engaging in. And this is relevant to what demons well before he was born have been engaging in. He's just a woefully ignorant demon that is not difficult to document and prosecute whatsoever. Okay, he's literally a demon he's like a prepubescent teenager that can't control his genitalia. Okay, so he's incapable of controlling his sexual impulses, and this is literally why he's going to federal prison, basically. Poor life choices, poor character, okay, poor ethics, and he's going to federal prison for terrorism. Okay, I want to make sure that this is clear. This is relevant to the entity that is gang stalking. I'm going to go ahead and finish reading my license plates. They are sharing in terrorism and obstruction of justice, threatening me with the police that are in gang stalking and furtherance of murder. So this is the entity threatening my life while I read their license plates. That's relevant to the ways in which they're going to be prosecuted. License, again, let me get to... And that includes the demon that calls itself a U.S. Marine. They're an enemy of the United States. And many of the enemies of the United States I'm showing you, are a part of law enforcement. They are a part of military. That's what Jason Isaac Fields represents. He's unfit. And he's an enemy engaging in targeting an American citizen. All right? License. This is, again, paper plate BL26P64. And everybody sitting on the Ontario board and the Ontario executive team, they are sharing in this documented act of obstruction of justice, terrorizing me with commercial planes and helicopters, stalking me where I'm at, pursuant to the documented pattern of conduct, and they are doing so with knowledge that I'm documenting them in real time, which I don't need any of those demons to admit to it. The evidence of surveillance is already in existence. It's already proven. You absolutely know what it is that I'm doing while you're keeping a whole fake sun over me and targeting me with planes and helicopters. You know exactly what I'm stating. And there's also no coincidence that while I'm documenting the entity engages in targeting in that manner. I'm going to prosecute you while you sit on some sort of a demonic board calling yourself anything but what you are, a demon, a sex offender, and an enemy of the United States. You're a domestic terrorist. All right? Doing so with the murderers of the Ontario Police Department you're going to federal prison for that. Okay? License plate 8HYR373 and license plate 00416C1. This is Ride on Time LLC. Again, these are businesses engaging in sexual violence as well, and they are doing so as third parties and in concert with the state, but that business itself is to be prosecuted as a sex offender. That business itself is engaging in terrorism. And like I stated, Leonida is just an example. You don't maintain any constitutional right to keep a business that's engaged in domestic terrorism. That it doesn't exist. It's a criminal act while you're using that business for that malicious purpose, and you don't have a constitutional right to keep that business where it is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. You're a terrorist, not a legitimate business. So that's a prosecution of a terrorist, not the maintenance of a legitimate business. It's a national security threat that business remains. All right, just want to document that. License 9SAD131. And it is currently 8:40 p.m. This is the entity engaging in this pattern of conduct, and this is that which is the OVITT Family Community Library maintaining a fake son over me, engaging in the perpetual sex offense, molesting me, stalking, targeting me with impossible light inside of that venue, terrorizing me with impossible light inside of that venue, while the demons that are stalking right now, these are the demons that fill that library stalking me by sitting around me and doing so while they're stalking with noise, psychopaths, stalking with light, while they're engaging in what is monitoring me on the computer that I'm on, monitoring me while I'm on my cell phone, monitoring me as I'm uploading evidence that's prosecuting them. And OVITT Family Community Library is hosting it, is facilitating it, is enabling it, is leading it. And they also happen to be engaged in kidnapping, and those demons are going to prison as surely as that same agency that's relying on the OVITT Family Community Library to engage in targeting me and obstruction of justice. That's why they are stalking me on Euclid Avenue tonight. And that's what they were doing on June 16, 2022. And the demons of the OVITT Family Community Library are going to federal prison for it. Okay, and so is Jason Isaac Fields. Remember, the substance of what this entity has committed seeking to manufacture a criminal record, manufacture mental illness. Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison for it. He's been relying upon that. Tracy Banks has been relying upon that. Jason Isaac Fields is engaging in what is having anal sex with Tracy Banks, and then whatever she utters in his ear, he goes and does it like a numb, brainless minion, a puppet of Satan is what he is. But he has a responsibility under the law, and he has a legally significant position, and he's going to be prosecuted necessarily. He's a terrorist that is, by definition, not based on, oh, I had a change of heart and I want to give evidence and now no, he's not. He's actually engaged in, I'm exposing the demon possessed. He's still engaged in witchcraft. He's spiritually attacking me. This is somebody that is engaged in what is psychological torture, in other words, and he's doing so in concert with the same entity. He has not changed his position while the same entity is targeting me in the same way that he has been since the beginning. And that's how those facts work, by the way. You don't rob a bank together and just change your mind. Oh, man, I don't want to go down for robbing a bank. I'm just done. That's not how you're out of the ongoing criminal conspiracy. You're still going to prison or you're going to jail, whatever the facts are with regard to that robbery that was committed while you were engaged in that conspiracy. And you're going to prison. That's you didn't engage in anything that's ceasing for that robbery to cease to continue or be committed. And you don't just get to unilaterally remove yourself from that criminal offense. And it's not working with regard to terrorism. And that's based on the inhumanity of the offense. And that's also based on, again, the entire government and the population. You're not getting out of that. You're going to prison. And there's no way to. And it's also speaking to what is absurd with regard to the target individual's position and any terrorist's ability to do that. That's absurd. This is what Jason Isaac Fields is seeing, and it's not going to happen. He's going to federal prison. I just want to make sure that that's clear. But under all circumstances, it needs to be known this is another demon. He's the Nephilim. And he's engaged in spiritually attacking me. Spiritual attacks that are going to be returned right back to him. They already are returned to him. And he's also going to federal prison, and that's based on his repeated acts of kidnapping me and targeting. And he's also being exposed as the actual mentally ill person while he's been defaming my character. These are spiritual attacks. It's also relevant to tangible evidence that exists against him, but these are spiritual attacks that this demon exacted against me while he's engaged in failed spell work. All right, it's currently, again, 8:44 p.m. This is P.O.C. And the entity that is subject to federal prison is gang stalking on the roads and the highways, molesting with impossible light. That's Ontario Police. Throughout the entirety of my discussion, 52 minutes, the Ontario Police engage in gang stalking on the roads and the highways, and also gang stalking by helicopter and airplanes. While demons are engaging in that, and they're doing it in engineer light, they're doing it under what is the fake moon that's over me at this 537 North Euclid Avenue, and they're doing so as demons that are in real time threatening and terrorizing and psychologically torturing based on my evidence that is serving to prosecute. And this is the federal government that did not do what it should have done, which is never engaged in terrorizing me in the first place, but it also did not engage in what is any investigation of my being targeted, engaged in what is targeting me and hoping that I would just end up dead so that they would not have to expose this and would not be subject to any sort of justice. I just want to be clear. That's relevant to what I'm entitled to, as I have proven the case, and I'm also dictating how justice is going to go. Okay, so there's reasonableness with regard to understanding what are the penalties for this, but the one that's investigating the case, the one that is exposing the violation of the law as the law exists, and with regard to laws that shall come into existence, that need to come into existence regarding this criminal system, that terrorists like Jason Isaac Fields, who's nothing but a witch, and was relying on the invisible nature of his attacks while he's engaged in what is abuse of his government position. This is relevant to the entity that's going to be subject to what justice requires. And I have already advocated that. I've already dictated that. And that is what justice requires under all circumstances where any American citizen is subject to being targeted by the federal government and the state government. Right? It is currently 8:45 p.m. American medical response, you're looking at what is the demon that is engaging in stalking with light activity. Using an ambulance is relevant to what is exposing simultaneously public corruption and mental illness and malice. They're monitoring my device as I am processing my podcast.
They are at G Street in Euclid, stalking in the path with the demon-possessed people of the state. You will see the light activity, which is coexisting with what is light activity by a demon driving an ambulance, audible activity by a demon driving an ambulance, facilitation by a demon driving an ambulance, representing the city of Ontario that is gang stalking, engaging in federal stalking with the demon-possessed people of the state. The demon driving an ambulance is stalking with light, engaging in the perpetual sex offense. Only difference is the demon is wearing an American Medical Response uniform with the acronym EMT, where they are mentally unfit, not only because of their criminal activity and their corruption, but because they're literally mentally ill. And they're engaging in criminal conduct that is totally the opposite of what someone in the medical profession should even have anything to do with. That level of malice is a threat to the public, by the way. That level of malice is what commits murder and then claims that they just lost them on the way to the hospital. That's the same mindset that's engaging in psychological torture. That's the same culpability, the same potential, the same ability to engage in that. I want to be clear, they sacrifice people all the time. These are serial killers that are gang stalking. American Medical Response is monitoring my device while they're engaging in the criminal abuse of an emergency vehicle to engage in criminal monitoring. That is light activity, audible activity, and relevant positioning. There's no warrant or probable cause for AMR to engage in gang stalking, which is what they're doing in concert and on behalf of the state, with the people of the state. Okay? This is the same entity that's just stalking by plane and helicopter. Okay? Okay, so I just want to be clear. There's no mystery here. The entity engaged in another iteration of the same P.O.C. You just got through flying over my head by helicopter and planes. What do you think AMR is doing? They're demons and they're gang stalking. You also see them doing that very clearly under the fake sun. Okay? It is 8:52 p.m. That's criminal summoning.